Sebastian Vale didn't believe in ghosts until the woman he destroyed 4 years ago appeared in Central Park pushing a stroller built for three. The crime boss who'd broken her heart with surgical precision froze mid-step when one of the toddlers looked up. Gray eyes. His gray eyes. The same shade that stared back from his mirror every morning, cold and calculating. Maya Bennett's face went white. Their eyes locked across 20 feet of autumn leaves and shattered history. Then she ran, not from danger, but from him. And Sebastian knew with absolute certainty that his past had just caught up with a vengeance he couldn't outrun. If you're hooked already, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now settle in, because what you're about to hear is a tale of secrets, second chances, and a man who thought he could walk away from love, until it came back on 3 pairs of tiny feet. The November wind cut through Central Park with the kind of bite that reminded Sebastian Vale why he hated pretending to be normal. He walked beside Clarissa Hart, his hand barely touching the small of her back, listening to her chatter about flower arrangements with the enthusiasm of someone planning a merger rather than a marriage, which, essentially, she was. "I'm thinking white orchids for the centerpieces," Clarissa said, her voice crisp and certain. "They photograph beautifully, and Daddy says the Plaza Ballroom looks best with a monochromatic palette." Sebastian made a non-committal sound. Clarissa Hart was exactly what his family wanted: old money, political connections, and the kind of ruthless ambition that made her fit seamlessly into the Vale empire. She was beautiful in a calculated way. Her blonde hair always perfectly styled, her wardrobe always impeccably coordinated. She was also completely and utterly wrong. "Are you even listening to me?" Clarissa stopped walking, one hand on her hip. "White orchids," Sebastian repeated dutifully. "Monochromatic, the plaza." "You're impossible." But she smiled, linking her arm through his. "At least try to look interested when we meet with the wedding planner next week. My mother is already convinced you're going to bolt." Smart woman, Sebastian thought, but he kept his expression neutral. He'd learned the art of the mask early. How to smile when you wanted to snarl, how to nod when you wanted to refuse, how to pretend you gave a damn about centerpieces when what you really wanted was to burn the entire charade to the ground. But men in Sebastian's position didn't get what they wanted. They got what was strategically necessary. The arranged engagement to Clarissa had been his grandfather's idea. Victor Vale didn't suggest, he commanded. And Sebastian had learned long ago that defying Victor was a losing game. So he'd slipped the ring on Clarissa's finger 6 months ago, smiled for the society pages, and started the slow countdown to a marriage that would seal alliances and strengthen the Vale family's grip on New York's underworld. He was 29 years old and his life was already over. They rounded a bend in the path, and that's when Sebastian saw her. For a moment, his brain refused to process what his eyes were telling him. Maya Bennett. Here. Real. Not a memory or a ghost or one of the 1,000 regrets that haunted his 3 a.m. thoughts. She was pushing a stroller. No, not a stroller. One of those massive contraptions built for triplets. And she looked exactly the same and completely different all at once. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail instead of the careful curls she used to wear. Her jeans were faded, her jacket was too thin for the weather, and there were shadows under her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and exhaustion. But her face, God, her face was still the most beautiful thing Sebastian had ever seen. She was laughing at something one of the children said, bending down to adjust a blanket, and the sound hit Sebastian like a physical blow. Then she looked up. Their eyes met across the path, and Sebastian watched the color drain from Maya's face. For a frozen second, neither of them moved. The world narrowed to just the two of them, the man who'd shattered her and the woman he'd never stopped thinking about. "Sebastian?" Clarissa's voice sounded far away. "What's wrong?" He couldn't answer, couldn't breathe, because one of the toddlers in the stroller, a little boy with dark curls, had turned to see what his mother was staring at. And when he looked up, Sebastian felt the ground shift beneath his feet. Gray eyes. The exact shade of storm clouds before lightning. The exact shade Sebastian had inherited from his father, who'd inherited them from Victor, who'd inherited them from a line of Vale men stretching back generations. The boy couldn't have been more than 3 years old. 4 years. It had been 4 years since Sebastian had walked away from Maya Bennett with words designed to cut deep enough that she'd never try to follow. 4 years since he'd convinced himself it was the right choice, the only choice, the choice that would keep her alive. And now she was here with a child who had his eyes. Maya's hands tightened on the stroller handle. Sebastian saw the panic bloom across her face, the same look a deer gets right before it bolts. She took a step backward. "Maya!" The word came out strangled. She ran, not away from the park, but deeper into it, pushing the heavy stroller with desperate strength, the wheels bouncing over the uneven path. Sebastian's body reacted before his brain caught up. He started after her, Clarissa's startled cry barely registering. "Sebastian, what the hell?" But he was already running, his long legs eating up the distance. Maya was fast, but the stroller slowed her down. He caught up to her near the Bethesda fountain, grabbing her arm. "Don't touch me!" Maya wrenched away from him, spinning to put the stroller behind her like a shield. Her chest heaved, her eyes wild. "Don't you dare touch me!" Sebastian held up his hands, backing off a step. Up close, he could see the exhaustion etched into every line of her face. She looked like she hadn't slept properly in years. "Maya, I just want to talk." "Talk?" Her laugh was sharp and bitter. "Now you want to talk? 4 years, Sebastian. 4 years of silence, and now you want to talk?" 3 small faces peered up from the stroller, suddenly quiet. Sebastian's gaze dropped to them involuntarily. 2 girls and a boy. The boy with the gray eyes was in the middle, flanked by his sisters. One of the girls had Maya's warm brown eyes and a sunny smile. The other had lighter eyes, hazel, maybe, and was watching Sebastian with careful suspicion. "Are they—" He couldn't finish the question. "None of your business." Maya's voice shook. "We were doing fine before you showed up, and we'll be fine after you leave. Just go back to your perfect life and forget you saw us." "Perfect life?" Sebastian laughed without humor. "You think—" "Sebastian!" Clarissa's voice cut through the tension. She appeared around a cluster of trees, her face flushed with exertion and irritation. "What on earth is going on? Who is this woman?" Maya's eyes went to Clarissa, taking in the designer coat, the diamond earrings, the engagement ring that probably cost more than Maya made in a year. Something in her expression shuddered completely. "Nobody," Maya said quietly. "I'm nobody. Congratulations on your engagement." She started to push the stroller away, but Sebastian moved to block her path. "Maya, please." "Let her go." Clarissa's voice was ice. "Clearly she's some kind of quote. Watch it." Sebastian's tone made Clarissa's eyes widen. He'd never used that voice with her before. The voice that reminded people exactly who he was and what he was capable of. "This is Maya Bennett, and these children are leaving." Maya's eyes flashed. "Right now. Move, Sebastian. Not until you tell me." "Tell you what? That your son is named Noah? That his sisters are Ivy and Owen? That they'll be 4 years old next month?" Maya's voice rose, years of pain and anger spilling over. "That I found out I was pregnant 1 week after you told me I was a mistake? That loving you was the biggest regret of your life? That I was nothing but a momentary lapse in judgment for the great Sebastian Vale?" The words hit like bullets. Sebastian felt each one find its mark, remembering the script he'd used to push her away. Every cruel phrase had been carefully chosen to make her hate him, to make her leave, to save her life. Those weren't... He stopped. What could he say? That those words weren't true? They were. He'd meant them to be true, needed them to be true, even if they'd torn him apart to say them. Weren't what? Weren't meant to destroy me? Maya's laugh was broken. "Congratulations, Sebastian. You succeeded. Now please, for the love of everything, let me take my children home." "Our children," Sebastian said quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. Clarissa made a strangled sound. "What did you just say?" Sebastian ignored her, his eyes locked on Maya. "That's what you're telling me, isn't it? These are my children. You gave up that right when you walked away." Maya's voice was steady now, cold. "You're nothing to them, a stranger, and that's how it's going to stay." She pushed past him, and this time Sebastian let her go. He stood frozen, watching her disappear into the crowd of weekend parkgoers, the massive stroller swallowing her small frame. Sebastian. Clarissa's voice was dangerously calm. Explain, now. He turned to look at her, seeing his future crumbling in real time. It's complicated. Complicated? Her voice rose. You have children, 3 children, with some random woman, and you think complicated covers it? She's not random, Sebastian said quietly. Oh, this keeps getting better. Clarissa's perfectly composed mask was cracking. How long? It ended 4 years ago. So right before you and I... She stopped, her eyes widening. You were with her when we started dating. No. Sebastian ran a hand through his hair. I ended it with Maya before anything happened between us. Clean break. Clean? Clarissa's laugh was harsh. There are 3 children, Sebastian. That's not clean, that's catastrophic. She wasn't wrong. Sebastian's mind was racing, trying to process what he'd just learned. Triplets. He had triplets. 3 children who were almost 4 years old, who'd been living their entire lives without him, who looked at him like a stranger because that's exactly what he was to them. Noah, Ivy, Owen. Their names played on repeat in his head. I need to go, Sebastian said abruptly. Go? Where? I need to find her. I need to... No! Clarissa grabbed his arm. No! You need to come with me right now and explain this to my father. If this gets out before we control the narrative, I don't care about the narrative. Sebastian pulled free. I have children, Clarissa. 3 children who've lived without you for 4 years. Clarissa's voice was sharp. If she wanted you in their lives, she would have told you. But she didn't, did she? She kept them secret. So maybe you should ask yourself why before you go barging into their lives and making everything worse. The words stung because they were logical. Maya had kept the pregnancy secret, had raised their children alone, had looked at him today with nothing but fury and pain. But that little boy had his eyes, and Sebastian knew, with the same certainty he knew his own name, that he couldn't walk away again. I'm sorry, he said to Clarissa, but I have to go. He left her standing by the fountain, her face a mask of rage and disbelief, and pulled out his phone as he walked. Eli Mercer answered on the first ring. Boss? I need you to find someone, Sebastian said. Maya Bennett. Last known address was Brooklyn, but that was 4 years ago. I need current location, employment, financials, everything. And I need it within the hour. On it. Eli didn't ask questions. That's why he was Sebastian's right-hand man. Anything else? Yeah. Sebastian's jaw clenched. Find out who knew about this. Someone must have known. If Maya was pregnant with triplets, someone saw her. Someone knew. You think it was kept from you deliberately? I think a lot of things are kept from me deliberately. Sebastian's voice was cold. Find out. He hung up and kept walking, his mind churning. Maya's words echoed. 1 week after you told me I was a mistake. Sebastian remembered that conversation with brutal clarity. He'd taken her to the small Italian restaurant she loved, let her order her favorite wine, and then systematically destroyed everything between them. Told her it had been fun, but it was over. That she'd been a distraction he couldn't afford anymore. That she needed to move on with her life and forget about him. The look on her face had nearly broken his resolve. She'd stared at him like he'd physically struck her, her eyes filling with tears she'd been too proud to let fall. Why? She'd whispered. Just tell me why. And he delivered the killing blow. Because you're not worth the complication. She'd left the restaurant with her head high, and Sebastian had watched her go, hating himself, hating his life, hating the circumstances that made loving her a death sentence. Because that was the truth he couldn't tell her. The Kozlov family had found out about Maya, had sent Sebastian photos of her leaving her apartment, walking to work, laughing with friends. The message was clear. We know about your weakness. We can get to her anytime we want. So Sebastian had made her not a weakness anymore. Had made her hate him so thoroughly that even his enemies would know she meant nothing. Had sacrificed his own happiness to keep her breathing. And she'd been pregnant. Had found out 1 week later. Had carried that knowledge, that burden, that impossible situation all alone while growing 3 human beings inside her. Sebastian's phone buzzed. A text from Eli. Found her. Sending address now. The address appeared a moment later. Red Hook, Brooklyn. Not the trendy part. The part where rent was cheap because everything else was questionable. Sebastian changed direction, heading for where his driver waited. His mind was already running through scenarios, possibilities, plans. He needed information before he could act. Needed to understand what Maya's life had been like for the past 4 years, what she needed, what the children needed, what kind of man he'd have to become to earn a place in their lives. His phone rang. Clarissa. He silenced it. It rang again immediately. This time it was Victor Vale. Sebastian stared at his grandfather's name on the screen. Clarissa must have called him already. Victor would be furious, not about the children themselves, but about the lack of control, the scandal, the disruption to carefully laid plans. He answered, "Grandfather, my office. 1 hour." Victor's voice could have frozen nitrogen. "Do not make me wait." The line went dead. Sebastian pocketed his phone and kept walking. His grandfather could wait. For the first time in his life, something mattered more than Victor Vale's commands. 3 somethings, to be precise. Gray eyes and brown eyes and hazel eyes. 3 children who didn't know his name. 3 children who existed because he'd once been foolish enough to believe he could have something good, something real, something that wasn't stained with blood and power plays. 3 children who were about to learn that their father was the kind of man mothers warned their kids about. Chet. Eli's report arrived while Sebastian sat in the back of his town car, stuck in midtown traffic. He read it twice, each pass making his jaw tighter. Maya Bennett, age 27, owner/operator of Maya's Kitchen, a food truck operating in Red Hook. Revenue, minimal. Current financial status. 3 months behind on rent, maxed out credit cards, outstanding medical bills from a high-risk pregnancy, and NICU stay totaling $47,000. The children, Noah, Ivy, and Owen Bennett, born January 15th, 4 years ago. Noah and Ivy were healthy. Owen had been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder at age 2. Current situation, eviction notice filed. Final warning sent. Hearing scheduled for next week. Sebastian's hands clenched around his phone. She was drowning. Had been drowning for 4 years while he lived in a penthouse and pretended his carefully ordered life meant something. There was more. A note from Eli at the bottom. CP visit scheduled for tomorrow morning. Anonymous tip about inadequate living conditions. Thought you should know. Anonymous tip. Right. Nothing was anonymous in Sebastian's world. Someone had made sure Child Protective Services would be knocking on Maya's door tomorrow. Someone wanted those children vulnerable. Sebastian's blood went cold. Change of plans, he told his driver. Red Hook, fast as you can. But Mr. Vale, your grandfather... I said Red Hook. Sebastian's voice left no room for argument. They made it to Brooklyn in 40 minutes. The address was a converted warehouse split into apartments that were optimistically called lofts and realistically called fire hazards. Sebastian's driver pulled up outside, looking deeply uncomfortable. Wait here, Sebastian said, climbing out. The building didn't have a doorman or a buzzer system. The front door was propped open with a brick. Sebastian climbed 3 flights of stairs that smelled like old cooking oil and mildew, each step increasing his fury at what Maya had been reduced to. Apartment 3C was at the end of a dim hallway. He could hear voices inside. Maya's, low and tired, and higher voices that must be the children. Sebastian raised his hand to knock, then hesitated. What was he going to say? Sorry I abandoned you. Here's a check. We're good now? He knocked before he could overthink it. The voices inside went silent. Footsteps approached the door. Who is it? It's Sebastian. A long pause. Go away. Maya, please, I just want to talk. About what? There's nothing to say. There's everything to say. Sebastian pressed his palm against the door. Please, 5 minutes. Another pause. Then the sound of locks turning. 3 of them, he counted. The door opened 6 inches, chain still engaged. Maya's face appeared in the gap, her expression hard. You can't be here. I know about CPS, Sebastian said quietly. I know they're coming tomorrow. Maya's face went white. How do you? I have resources, and I think I know who made the call. He met her eyes. Let me help. Help? Maya's laugh was bitter. Like you helped 4 years ago? Thanks, but I'll pass. Maya, if they take those kids, don't. Her voice shook. Don't you dare stand there and talk about my children like you have any right. You walked away. You made your choice. I made the only choice I could. The words came out harsher than he intended. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. Maya's voice rose. Explain how telling me I was worthless was the only option. Explain how disappearing for 4 years was some kind of noble sacrifice. Explain. A small voice interrupted from behind her. Mama? Who's at the door? Maya's eyes closed briefly. When she opened them, Sebastian saw something in them he'd never seen before, pure, primal fear. Nobody, baby, she called over her shoulder. Go back to your show. Is it the bad man? Sebastian's stomach dropped. What bad man? Maya ignored him. No, sweetie, not the bad man, just someone Mama used to know. Mama knows lots of people, a different voice chimed in, sunny and bright. That would be Ivy. Is he a friend? Not exactly, Maya said, her eyes never leaving Sebastian's. Go watch TV with your brother and sister. I'll be right there. Small footsteps retreated. Maya looked back at Sebastian, and now the fear was mixed with exhaustion and something that looked like surrender. You want to help? She said quietly. Then tell me how to stop CPS from taking my kids tomorrow. Tell me how to pay 3 months of back rent by morning. Tell me how to erase the fact that Owen's therapy costs more than I make in a month, or that Ivy needs new shoes and I can't afford them, or that Noah keeps asking why we're always eating peanut butter sandwiches. Her voice cracked on the last word, and Sebastian saw her fighting to hold it together. Tell me how to fix any of that, Sebastian, and I'll listen. But if you're just here to ease your conscience, you can leave right now. Sebastian looked at this woman who'd once laughed at his terrible jokes and fallen asleep on his shoulder and told him he was more than his last name. This woman who'd carried his children through what must have been a hellish pregnancy, raised them alone, fought to keep them fed and safe and loved despite impossible odds. This woman who was still the strongest person he'd ever met. I can pay the rent, he said, tonight, and the medical bills, and anything else you need. I don't want your money. But you need it. Sebastian's voice was gentle. And those kids need it. So let me help, Maya, please. Let me do this one thing right. Maya stared at him for a long moment. He could see her pride warring with her desperation, her need to protect her children fighting against her instinct to keep Sebastian as far away as possible. Finally, she said, Why? Because they're mine. The words came out raw. Because that little boy has my eyes, and I walked away once and I won't do it again. Because you deserved better 4 years ago, and they deserve better now. You don't know anything about them. Then let me learn. Maya's laugh was hollow. You think you can just show up and play daddy? It doesn't work like that, Sebastian. They have a life, a routine. They don't need some stranger coming in and, I'm not a stranger. I'm their father. You're a DNA donor. Maya's voice was sharp. A father shows up. A father changes diapers at 3 a.m. and sits through doctor's appointments and learns what foods Owen won't eat because the texture is wrong. A father doesn't disappear for 4 years and then expect everything to be fine because he's suddenly interested. Every word was a knife, and Sebastian took each one because he deserved it. You're right, he said quietly. I don't deserve to be called their father, but I'm here now, and I'm not leaving. So you can either let me help or you can fight me. But Maya, he paused, making sure she heard every word. CPS is coming tomorrow, and if you lose those kids because you were too proud to accept help, you'll never forgive yourself. It was a low blow, using her children as leverage. Sebastian saw it land, saw Maya's expression crumble for just a second before she rebuilt her walls. Fine, she said. You can pay the rent, but that's it. You wire the money, you leave, and we never see you again. Deal? No deal. Sebastian's voice was firm. I pay the rent, I meet my children, and we figure out what happens next, together. There is no together. Maya's hand tightened on the door. There's me, trying to survive, And there's you trying to ease your guilt. Those are two separate things. Mama? The small voice was back. I'm hungry. Maya's eyes closed again, and Sebastian saw her armor crack just a little more. 1 minute, Owen, she called. Then to Sebastian, you have no idea what you're asking for. Then show me. They stared at each other through the 6-inch gap, years of history and hurt and what-ifs hanging between them like smoke. Finally, Maya closed the door. For a second, Sebastian thought she was shutting him out completely. Then he heard the chain slide back, and the door opened fully. Maya stood in the doorway, looking small and tired and impossibly brave. 1 hour, she said. You can come in for 1 hour. You don't make promises you can't keep. You don't confuse them. You don't tell them who you are. And when the hour is up, you leave. Understood? Understood. She stepped back, letting him into the tiny apartment. It was clean but sparse. A couch that had seen better days, a small TV on a cardboard box, a kitchenette barely big enough for one person. Toys were scattered across the floor, neatly organized into bins. Children's artwork covered one wall, crayon drawings and finger paintings and crooked hearts. 3 small faces looked up from where they sat on the floor in front of the TV. Sebastian's breath caught. In the park, he'd only gotten glimpses. Now, here, he could really see them. Noah sat in the middle, his gray eyes solemn and watchful. He had Sebastian's coloring, dark hair, pale skin, but Maya's delicate features. He clutched a worn stuffed dog and studied Sebastian with the intensity of someone much older. Ivy was on Noah's left, her warm brown eyes curious and bright. She had Maya's smile, Sebastian's dark hair, and an energy that seemed to vibrate through her small frame. She waved at him cheerfully. Owen sat on Noah's right, slightly apart from his siblings. He had lighter hair than the others, almost auburn in certain light, and hazel eyes that didn't quite meet Sebastian's. His hands moved in small, repetitive patterns, and Sebastian recognized the stimming behavior from Eli's report about Owen's autism diagnosis. Who's that, Mama? Ivy asked, pointing at Sebastian. Maya's hand landed on Sebastian's arm, a warning. This is an old friend. He's visiting for a little while. Does he want to watch Bluey with us? Ivy's enthusiasm was infectious. We're on the camping episode. I don't think, Maya started. I'd love to, Sebastian said. Maya shot him a look, but he ignored it, moving carefully into the small living room. He lowered himself to the floor a respectful distance from the children, close enough to see them, but not so close that he invaded their space. Owen immediately scooted farther away, his stimming increasing. Noah watched Sebastian with quiet suspicion, but Ivy beamed and scooted closer. I'm Ivy, she announced. That's Noah and that's Owen. Noah doesn't talk much, and Owen doesn't like loud noises, but I talk enough for all of us. Mama says I could talk the ears off a cornstalk, whatever that means. Do you like Bluey? Sebastian felt something crack open in his chest. I've never seen it. Ivy's eyes went wide. Never, but it's the best show ever. It's about a dog family and they play games and Bluey has a little sister named Bingo and… Ivy, Maya's voice was gentle but firm. Let our guest catch his breath. Sorry, Mama. Ivy turned back to the TV, but she kept sneaking glances at Sebastian. Noah hadn't moved, his gray eyes locked on Sebastian's face. Finally, he spoke, his voice quiet and serious. You made Mama cry. The room went silent. Maya's face flushed. Noah, that's not… In the park, Noah continued, ignoring his mother. When we saw you, Mama cried after. She said her eyes were just cold, but I know what crying looks like. Sebastian felt like he'd been punched. He looked at Maya, saw the confirmation in her eyes, and something inside him shattered a little more. You're right, he said to Noah. I did make your mama cry, and I'm sorry for that. Noah considered this. Are you going to make her cry again? I hope not. That's not a promise. Smart kid, too smart. Sebastian met those gray eyes, his eyes, and made a decision. You're right, he said. I promise I will try very hard not to make your mama cry again. Noah stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't even acceptance, but it was something, and Sebastian would take it. They watched Bluey in silence for a while. Ivy provided running commentary. Owen gradually stopped stimming quite so intensely, though he never relaxed completely. Noah watched Sebastian more than the TV, like he was trying to figure out a puzzle, and Sebastian watched all of them, memorizing details. The way Ivy twirled her hair when she was thinking, the way Noah's hand would occasionally reach out to rest on Owen's shoulder, grounding his brother. The way Owen lined up his toy cars in perfect rows during commercial breaks. These were his children. His. The weight of it was crushing and exhilarating all at once. When the episode ended, Ivy turned to him. "Do you have kids?" Sebastian's eyes met Maya's across the room. "It's complicated." "That's what Mama says when she means yes, but doesn't want to explain." Ivy grinned. "Are they nice? Your kids?" "I think they might be the nicest kids in the world," Sebastian said honestly. Ivy beamed. Owen carefully lined up another car. Noah continued to watch Sebastian with those two old eyes. The hour passed faster than Sebastian thought possible. When Maya finally said, "Okay guys, time for dinner," he felt the loss like a physical thing. He stood, brushing off his expensive pants that were now covered in carpet fuzz and cracker crumbs. The children called out casual goodbyes, Ivy enthusiastically, Noah with reserve, Owen with a small hand wave that didn't include eye contact. Maya walked him to the door. In the hallway, away from little ears, she crossed her arms. "The rent," she said quietly. "How?" Sebastian pulled out his phone, opened his banking app, and showed her the screen. "Give me your landlord's information. I'll wire it tonight." "That's—" Maya looked at the numbers and went pale. "Sebastian, that's too much. It's 3 months back rent plus 6 months forward, and it's not too much. It's not even close to enough." She looked up at him, and for the first time since the park, her expression softened slightly. "Why are you doing this?" "Because they're mine," Sebastian said simply. "And because you needed me 4 years ago, and I wasn't there. So I'm here now." "For how long?" Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "How long before your real life calls you back and we're alone again?" Sebastian thought about Clarissa, about his grandfather, about the empire waiting for him to fall in line. Then he thought about 3 pairs of eyes watching Bluey, about a little boy who'd called him out for making his mother cry, about a sunny girl who talked too much, and a quiet boy who lined up cars with mathematical precision. "I'm not leaving," he said. "Not this time." Maya searched his face, looking for the lie. Sebastian let her look, knowing she'd find only truth. Finally, she nodded. "We'll see." It wasn't trust, but it was possibility, and for now that was enough. Sebastian texted her landlord's information to Eli with instructions to wire the money immediately. Then he looked back at Maya, standing in her doorway with walls crumbling and hope she was too afraid to acknowledge. "CPS tomorrow," he said. "What time?" 9 a.m. "I'll be here at 8:30. "Sebastian." "I'll be here," he repeated. "And Maya?" "Those kids are amazing. You did that. All alone. So whatever happens next, know that you're the strongest person I've ever met." He left before she could respond, walking down 3 flights of stairs that felt different than they had on the way up. His phone buzzed constantly. Clarissa, Victor, various members of his organization, but Sebastian ignored all of it. For the first time in 4 years, he had something more important than duty. He had a reason to become the kind of man his children deserved. Sebastian spent the night in his penthouse, but he didn't sleep. Instead, he sat in his study with Eli, going over every detail of Maya's situation with the precision of a military operation. "The CPS caseworker is named Patricia Reeves," Eli said, sliding a file across the desk. 15 years with the department. Good reputation, but she goes by the book. If there's any legitimate concern about the living conditions or Maya's ability to provide for 3 kids, she'll open a case. Then we make sure there's no concern." Sebastian studied the file. "What else?" The anonymous tip came from a burner phone. Untraceable, but the call was made from Midtown Manhattan, wealthy area, not Red Hook. So someone with resources. Sebastian's jaw tightened. Someone who knew exactly what they were doing. "You think it was Clarissa? Or someone she told?" Sebastian had ignored 17 calls from his fiancée and 5 from his grandfather. By now, the entire Vale family probably knew about the children. It doesn't matter who made the call. What matters is making sure CPS leaves with nothing to report. Eli nodded. I've arranged for a cleaner to go to the apartment first thing. New furniture delivery at 7 a.m. Nothing ostentatious, just decent stuff that doesn't look like it came from a curb. The refrigerator will be fully stocked by 8. What about the medical bills? Paid. All of them. And I've set up a trust fund for each kid. Educational expenses, medical needs, whatever they require. Sebastian looked up. I didn't ask you to do that. I know. Eli met his gaze steadily. But I've worked for you for 8 years, boss. I know when something matters. Something in Sebastian's chest tightened. Thank you. There's one more thing. Eli's expression turned serious. Your grandfather wants to see you. He's not pleased. Victor is never pleased. This is different. He's threatening to cut you off completely if you don't end this embarrassment immediately. Eli paused. His words, not mine. Sebastian stood, walking to the window. Below, the city glittered with a million lights, each one representing someone going about their life, unaware that his entire world had shifted on its axis in the span of a single afternoon. Let him cut me off, Sebastian said quietly. I don't care anymore. Boss, I mean it, Eli. For 4 years, I've done everything Victor wanted. I walked away from the woman I loved because he said she was a liability. I got engaged to Clarissa because he said it was strategically necessary. I've played the dutiful grandson, the perfect heir, the emotionless enforcer. He turned to face his friend. And what do I have to show for it? A fake engagement, a family that sees me as a chess piece, and 3 children who don't know my name. Eli was quiet for a moment. What are you going to do? I'm going to be there tomorrow morning. I'm going to make sure those kids stay with their mother, and then I'm going to figure out how to be the father they deserve. Sebastian's voice was steel. Everything else can burn. Even the Empire? Especially the Empire. Eli studied him, then nodded slowly. Then I guess we'd better make sure tomorrow goes perfectly. They worked through the night, planning for every contingency. By the time the sun started to rise over Manhattan, Sebastian had showered, changed into jeans and a sweater that wouldn't scream crime boss, and was on his way to Brooklyn. He arrived at Maya's building at 8:15 to find it transformed. The delivery truck was just pulling away, and through the 3rd floor window he could see new furniture being arranged. Eli had outdone himself, nothing too fancy, just solid, comfortable pieces that looked like Maya might have saved up for them. Sebastian climbed the stairs and knocked. Maya opened the door and her eyes widened. Behind her, he could see the new couch, the actual dining table, the chairs that matched. What did you do? Her voice was caught between gratitude and anger. I kept my promise. Sebastian met her gaze steadily. I said I'd help. This is me helping. Sebastian, this is... She gestured helplessly at the apartment. This is too much. It's a couch and some chairs. That's not too much. That's basic furniture. For you, maybe. Maya's voice dropped. But for me, this is... She stopped, blinking rapidly. Don't cry, Sebastian said softly. Please. Noah was very clear that I'm not supposed to make you cry anymore. That startled a laugh out of her, watery but genuine. He did say that, didn't he? He did, and I take my promises to 4-year-olds very seriously. Maya shook her head, but she was smiling slightly. Come in, the kids are eating breakfast. Sebastian stepped into the apartment, and this time it felt different. The new furniture made the space seem less desperate, more like an actual home. The refrigerator was indeed stocked. He could see milk and eggs and fresh fruit through the open door. The children sat at the new table, eating what looked like actual pancakes instead of peanut butter sandwiches. You came back! Ivy's face lit up. Mama said you might not, but I knew you would. Did you? Sebastian found himself smiling. Yep, you have nice eyes. People with nice eyes keep promises. Ivy took a huge bite of pancake. That's what Mama says. Maya's cheeks flushed. I say a lot of things. Noah looked up from his breakfast, studied Sebastian for a moment, then returned to carefully cutting his pancakes into perfect squares. Owen didn't look up at all, but his stimming had decreased from yesterday. His hands were still focused on eating. "Can I help with anything?" Sebastian asked Maya. She looked at him like he'd grown a second head. "You want to help?" "I'm here, aren't I?" "You're here for the CPS visit." "I'm here because I want to be here." Sebastian held her gaze. "Tell me what to do." Maya studied him for a long moment, clearly trying to figure out if this was real or some elaborate game. Finally, she said, "Owen needs his therapy session at 10. If CPS is still here, someone will need to take him." "I'll do it." "You don't know anything about his therapy. Then teach me." "Sebastian." "Mama," Noah's quiet voice interrupted. "The lady is here." They all turned to look out the window. A woman in a practical pantsuit was getting out of a sensible sedan, a clipboard in hand. Patricia Reeves. Right on time. Maya's hand went to her throat, a nervous gesture that made Sebastian want to punch whoever had made that anonymous call. "It's going to be fine," he said quietly. "I promise." "You can't promise that. Watch me." The knock came 30 seconds later. Maya took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and opened the door. "Ms. Bennett?" Patricia Reeves had a kind face but sharp eyes that missed nothing. "I'm Patricia Reeves from Child Protective Services. We spoke on the phone." "Yes, come in." Maya stepped back and Patricia entered, her gaze sweeping the apartment in one efficient assessment. Sebastian saw her take in the clean space, the new furniture, the 3 children eating breakfast at a proper table. Her expression didn't change, but something in her posture relaxed slightly. "And you are?" She turned to Sebastian. "Sebastian Vale." He offered his hand. "A friend of the family." Patricia's handshake was firm. "I see. Ms. Bennett, I'm here to follow up on a report we received about potential inadequate living conditions for your children. Do you mind if I look around?" "Of course not." Maya's voice was steady, but Sebastian could see her hands trembling slightly. "Whatever you need." Patricia spent the next 20 minutes conducting a thorough inspection. She checked the bedrooms, 3 small mattresses on the floor in one room, neatly made with clean sheets. She examined the kitchen, the bathroom, the fire escape. She asked about school enrollment, medical care, daily routines. Maya answered every question with quiet competence, and Sebastian watched her transform. This wasn't the exhausted woman he'd seen yesterday. This was a mother fighting for her children, and she was magnificent. "And what about employment?" Patricia asked, making notes on her clipboard. "I own a food truck, Maya's Kitchen. It's parked in Red Hook, near the waterfront." "Income?" Maya's jaw tightened. "It varies. Some weeks are better than others." "But you're current on rent?" "Yes." Maya didn't look at Sebastian. "I am now." Patricia made another note. "I'd like to speak with the children, if that's all right." "Of course." Patricia approached the table where the 3 kids had finished breakfast and were now playing quietly. Ivy looked up with her sunny smile. Noah watched carefully. Owen continued lining up his toy cars, ignoring the newcomer. "Hi there," Patricia said gently, crouching down to their level. "My name is Patricia. What are your names?" "I'm Ivy," Ivy announced happily. "That's Noah, and that's Owen. Do you want to see my drawing? I made a picture of our family." She held up a crayon drawing. Sebastian's breath caught. There were 4 stick figures, a tall one labeled Mama, and 3 small ones labeled with the kids' names. No father figure in sight. Patricia studied the drawing. "That's very nice. Do you like living here, Ivy?" "It's okay. The stairs are fun to run on, but Mama says we can't do that because of the neighbors." Ivy's expression turned serious. "We got new furniture today. It's really comfy. Want to feel?" "Maybe later," Patricia smiled. "What about you, Noah? Do you like it here?" Noah considered the question with his usual gravity. "It's home. Mama takes care of us. We're fine." "Do you have enough food to eat?" "We have pancakes today." Noah's eyes flickered to Sebastian briefly. "Sometimes we have other things." Patricia made more notes. She tried to engage Owen, but he was deep in his car lining routine and didn't respond. After a moment, Maya quietly explained about Owen's autism, about his therapy schedule, about the strategies they use to help him feel safe. "He has a therapist?" Patricia asked. "Yes, twice a week. He has a session this morning, actually." And you're able to afford that? Maya hesitated just long enough for Sebastian to step in. I'm helping with medical expenses, he said. All 3 children have full coverage now. Patricia's sharp gaze swung to him. You're helping? As a friend? Yes. I see. More notes. Ms. Bennett, may I speak with you privately for a moment? Sebastian saw Maya's face go pale, but she nodded. Of course. Sebastian, can you watch the kids? Absolutely. The 2 women stepped into the small bedroom, closing the door behind them. Sebastian looked at the 3 children, who were all watching him with varying degrees of interest. So, he said, feeling completely out of his depth, what do we do now? We could play a game, Ivy suggested. Do you know how to play hide and seek? In a 1-bedroom apartment? We're very good at hiding, Ivy grinned. Mama says we could hide in a shoebox if we needed to. I don't think now is the best time for games, Noah said quietly. Mama is worried. The kid was too perceptive. Sebastian crouched down to Noah's level. Your mama is very brave and very strong. Everything is going to be okay. You said you wouldn't make promises you couldn't keep. This is one I can keep. Noah studied him with those unsettling gray eyes. Why are you really here? Because I care about you and your brother and sister. You just met us yesterday. Sometimes that's all it takes. Noah didn't look convinced, but he didn't argue either. Instead, he asked, Are you Mama's boyfriend? Sebastian nearly choked. What? Jacob at daycare says when grown-ups are friends and one of them is a boy and one is a girl, that means they're boyfriend and girlfriend. Noah tilted his head. Is that what you are? It's complicated. Mama says that too. Noah sighed like the weight of the world rested on his 4-year-old shoulders. Grown-ups are weird. We really are, Sebastian agreed. The bedroom door opened. Maya emerged first, her face unreadable. Patricia followed, tucking her clipboard under her arm. Sebastian stood, trying to read the situation. Patricia's expression was professionally neutral, giving nothing away. Thank you for your time, Ms. Bennett, Patricia said. I'll be filing my report this afternoon. And? Maya's voice was tight. And based on what I've seen today, I don't have immediate concerns. The children appear healthy, well cared for, and the living situation is adequate. Patricia paused. However, I will note that the financial situation remains precarious. I'll be recommending a follow-up visit in 3 months to ensure stability continues. Maya's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you. Take care of those beautiful children. Patricia smiled at the kids. It was nice to meet you all. Ivy waved enthusiastically. Noah nodded solemnly. Owen continued playing with his cars. Sebastian walked Patricia to the door. In the hallway, she turned to him. Mr. Vale, she said quietly, I don't know what your relationship is with this family, and frankly, it's not my business. But those children are lucky to have people who care about them. Make sure that caring doesn't stop when things get complicated. It won't, Sebastian said firmly. Patricia studied him one more time, then nodded and left. Sebastian closed the door and turned to find Maya staring at him, tears streaming down her face. Hey! He moved toward her instinctively. Hey, it's okay. She said everything was fine. I know. Maya wiped at her eyes angrily. I know, it's just, I was so scared. I was so scared they were going to take them, and I didn't know what I would do. And then you showed up with furniture and money, and... She broke off, pressing her hands to her face. The kids were watching now, their small faces concerned. Mama? Ivy's voice was small. Are you sad? No, baby. Maya lowered her hands, forcing a smile. Mama's happy. Sometimes people cry when they're happy. That's confusing, Ivy said. Being a grown-up is confusing, Noah added sagely. Despite everything, Sebastian laughed. These kids were something else. Maya pulled herself together, wiping her face one more time. Okay, Owen has therapy in 20 minutes. I need to get him ready. I'll take him, Sebastian said. What? No. You said if CPS was still here, someone would need to take him. CPS just left, but you're exhausted. Let me do this. Sebastian, you don't know anything about... Then come with us. Show me. Teach me. He met her eyes. I want to learn, Maya. I want to understand what they need. Maya looked at him for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. Okay, she said finally, but Owen might not react well to changes in routine. We'll need to prepare him. Tell me what to do. Maya knelt beside Owen, waiting until he paused in his car lining to look at her. Owen, sweetie, we need to go to Miss Jenny's office for your session. Remember Miss Jenny? Owen nodded, his hands resuming their movement. Good. And today Sebastian is going to come with us. Is that okay? Owen's hands stilled. He looked at Sebastian, then back at his mother, then at Sebastian again. Finally, he gave a small nod. Thank you, baby. Maya kissed his forehead. Let's get your jacket. The therapy center was a 20-minute subway ride away. Sebastian insisted on taking a car service instead, and Maya didn't argue. Owen sat between them, his hands moving in constant, soothing patterns. Ivy and Noah stayed home with a neighbor, an older woman who clearly adored the kids and gave Sebastian a suspicious once-over before agreeing to babysit. In the car, Maya explained Owen's diagnosis quietly. He was diagnosed at 2, high-functioning autism, which is an outdated term, but that's what they called it. He's mostly nonverbal in stressful situations, very routine-oriented, sensory-sensitive. Loud noises, unexpected touches, sudden changes. They can all trigger meltdowns. How do you handle meltdowns? Patience, space. Sometimes pressure helps, weighted blankets, tight hugs if he initiates them, but mostly just being there, being calm, not taking it personally. Sebastian watched Owen's small hands moving, creating patterns only he could see. He's beautiful, he said quietly. Maya's eyes filled again. He is. They all are. But Owen is so smart, Sebastian. He sees patterns in everything. He can tell you what day of the week any date falls on. He remembers every single thing anyone has ever told him. But the world is so loud and bright and overwhelming for him, and I just want him to be okay. He will be, Sebastian said. He has you. I don't know if I'm enough. You are. Sebastian reached over Owen's head and squeezed Maya's hand briefly. You're more than enough. The therapy center was bright and welcoming, with soft lighting and calm colors. A woman in her 30s greeted them at the door. Maya and Owen, my favorite guy. She had the kind of warm energy that somehow managed to be soothing rather than overwhelming. And this must be Sebastian, Maya said. Friend. He wanted to observe today's session, if that's okay. Of course, Jenny smiled at Sebastian. Fair warning, though, I might put you to work. We're doing a lot of social interaction exercises today. I'm all yours, Sebastian said. The session was revelatory. Sebastian watched Jenny work with Owen, using special toys and activities designed to help him practice skills that came naturally to most kids, but required conscious effort for him. Eye contact, taking turns, communicating needs. And Owen was brilliant. When he was comfortable, when he trusted the person he was working with, his whole face lit up. He made jokes in his own quiet way. He showed off his pattern recognition skills with pride. He even made eye contact with Jenny for brief, shining moments. "Want to try?" Jenny asked Sebastian during a break. "We're working on greeting new people. It's hard for Owen because it requires breaking his routine and engaging with someone unexpected. I don't want to make him uncomfortable." "You won't. We practice with safe people first, people he's met before and knows won't hurt him." Jenny smiled. "That's you now." She coached Sebastian through it. How to approach slowly, how to get down on Owen's level, how to let Owen initiate contact rather than forcing it, how to recognize the signs that Owen needed space. "Hi, Owen," Sebastian said softly, kneeling a few feet away. "Can I play with you?" Owen didn't look up, but his hands stilled. "A good sign," Jenny mouthed. "I see you're building something," Sebastian continued. "Can you show me?" Slowly, carefully, Owen picked up one of his blocks. He held it out toward Sebastian, not quite handing it over, but offering it to the space between them. Sebastian's throat tightened. He took the block gently. "Thank you. This is a good block. What should I do with it?" Owen considered this. Then, in a voice so quiet Sebastian had to strain to hear it, he said, "Build." It was the first word Owen had spoken directly to him. Sebastian looked at Maya, who had tears streaming down her face again. She nodded encouragingly. For the next 10 minutes, Sebastian and Owen built a tower together. Owen directed, Sebastian followed, and something fragile and precious took root between them. When the session ended, Jenny pulled Sebastian aside. That was really good. Owen doesn't usually warm up to new people that quickly. You must be someone special. I'm his father, Sebastian said quietly. It was the first time he'd said it out loud to someone outside Maya's apartment. Jenny's eyes widened. Oh, Maya didn't mention. She didn't know I would be in the picture until yesterday. Sebastian watched Owen carefully pack away his toys, following the routine Jenny had taught him. I'm learning. I want to do this right. Then my advice? Be consistent. Show up. Keep your promises. Kids like Owen need to know they can trust you absolutely. Jenny's expression turned serious. And be patient. Trust takes time. I have time, Sebastian said. They took the car service back to the apartment. Owen fell asleep in the car, exhausted from the mental effort of the session. Sebastian carried him up the 3 flights of stairs, and Maya unlocked the door to chaos. Ivy and Noah were in the middle of an elaborate game involving every pillow in the apartment. The neighbor, Mrs. Chen, looked frazzled but amused. They have energy, these two, she said in accented English. The quiet one is a thinker. The girl could power a city. That sounds about right, Maya said, laughing. Thank you, Mrs. Chen. Sebastian laid Owen on the new couch, covering him with a blanket. The little boy didn't even stir. How was therapy? Noah appeared at Sebastian's elbow. Good. Your brother did great. He always does good with Miss Jenny. She's patient. Noah looked up at Sebastian. Were you patient too? I tried to be. Good. Noah nodded approvingly. Owen needs patient people. Ivy bounced over. Can you stay for lunch? Mama makes really good sandwiches, not just peanut butter anymore. We have turkey now. Sebastian looked at Maya, who shrugged. You've made it this far. Might as well stay for lunch. So he did. He sat at the new table with Maya and the kids. Owen woke up halfway through and joined them quietly and ate turkey sandwiches that were probably the best meal Sebastian had tasted in years. Not because of the food itself, but because of the company. Ivy chattered about everything and nothing. Noah asked thoughtful questions about Sebastian's life, carefully extracting information without being obvious about it. Owen ate his sandwich cut into precise squares and hummed softly to himself. And Maya watched it all with an expression Sebastian couldn't quite read. Part wonder, part fear, part something that might have been hope. After lunch, Sebastian's phone buzzed for the 100th time. He'd been ignoring it all day, but finally he glanced at the screen. 23 missed calls from Clarissa, 14 from Victor, and 1 text from Eli that made his blood run cold. Clarissa showed up at your penthouse with her father. They're waiting. This is bad, boss. Sebastian stood abruptly. I need to go. Maya looked up, startled by his tone. What's wrong? Nothing, just something I need to handle. He looked at the 3 children, who were watching him with varying degrees of concern. Can I come back tomorrow? Sebastian, please. He met Maya's eyes. I know I don't have the right to ask, but please. Maya studied him, and Sebastian saw her trying to decide if he was worth the risk. Finally, she nodded. Tomorrow. But Sebastian, don't make promises you can't keep. I never do, he said quietly. He left the apartment and climbed into the waiting car, his mind already shifting gears. The brief peace of the afternoon evaporated, replaced by the cold calculation he'd learned from Victor. Clarissa and her father waiting at his penthouse. CPS miraculously getting an anonymous tip. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Someone was making moves, and Sebastian needed to figure out who before those moves destroyed the fragile new world he was trying to build. The drive back to Manhattan felt like crossing into enemy territory. His phone buzzed again. Eli. They're getting impatient. Clarissa's father is threatening to call off the merger with the Hart family businesses. Victor is on his way over. This is about to get very messy. Sebastian typed back, Let it get messy. I'm done playing their games. Boss, think about what you're saying. I have thought about it. For 4 years, I've thought about nothing else. I'm done, Eli. Whatever happens next, I'm done. He pocketed his phone and stared out the window as Brooklyn gave way to Manhattan, poverty giving way to wealth, reality giving way to the gilded cage he'd been born into. But somewhere behind him, in a tiny apartment in Red Hook, 3 children were playing. 3 children who didn't care about empires or mergers or strategic alliances. 3 children who just needed a father who showed up. And for the first time in his life, Sebastian knew exactly which side of that divide he belonged on. The car pulled up to his building. Sebastian took a deep breath, straightened his shoulders, and prepared for war. The elevator ride to Sebastian's penthouse felt like ascending to a guillotine. Through the polished brass doors, he could see his reflection, rumpled sweater, jeans with carpet fuzz still clinging to them, hair disheveled from carrying Owen up 3 flights of stairs. He looked nothing like the Sebastian Vale who usually inhabited this building. He looked like a man who'd spent the morning playing with blocks on a therapy room floor. The doors opened directly into his apartment, and Sebastian stepped into a tableau of barely contained fury. Clarissa stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, her arms crossed, her expression glacial. Beside her, Richard Hart, her father, and one of New York's most powerful attorneys, looked like he was mentally drafting a lawsuit. And in Sebastian's favorite chair, looking perfectly at ease despite the tension crackling through the room, sat Victor Vale. Eli stood off to the side, his face carefully neutral, but Sebastian caught the warning in his eyes. "Well," Victor said, his voice deceptively mild, "the prodigal grandson returns. We were beginning to think you'd forgotten where you lived." Sebastian closed the elevator doors behind him. "I've been busy." "Busy?" Clarissa's voice could have cut glass. "You've been busy, playing house with your little bastards while I've been fielding questions from every social columnist in Manhattan about why my fiancée disappeared yesterday." "Clarissa," Richard's tone was sharp. "Language. Don't tell me to watch my language, Daddy. Tell him to explain why he has 3 illegitimate children he never bothered to mention." Sebastian moved to the bar, pouring himself 2 fingers of scotch. He needed something to do with his hands before they formed fists. "They're not illegitimate. They're my children." "Same thing," Clarissa snapped. "No," Sebastian said quietly, turning to face her. "It's not. Illegitimate implies they're somehow less than. They're not. They're Noah, Ivy, and Owen. They're 4 years old, and they're the best thing that's ever happened to me." Clarissa stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "Are you actually serious right now? You met them yesterday." "And in one day, they've shown me more genuine humanity than I've experienced in my entire life in this world." Sebastian gestured at the opulent apartment around them. "So yes, I'm serious." "Sebastian," Victor's voice cut through the argument like a blade. "Sit down. We need to discuss this rationally." "There's nothing to discuss. I have children. I'm going to be part of their lives. That's not up for debate." "Everything is up for debate," Victor said. "Sit down." The command in his grandfather's voice was absolute. Sebastian had been conditioned since childhood to obey that tone. But something had shifted in the past 24 hours. Something fundamental had cracked in the foundation of his obedience. He remained standing. Victor's eyes narrowed. "I see. So that's how this is going to be." "How what is going to be?" "Your little rebellion." Victor stood, and despite being in his 70s, he still commanded a room effortlessly. "You think because you've discovered these children, you can suddenly throw away everything we've built? Everything you are." "Everything you've built," Sebastian corrected. "I never wanted this life, Victor. You know that. What you want is irrelevant. You're a Vale. That comes with responsibilities. And I'm also a father now. That comes with responsibilities too." Richard Hart cleared his throat. "Mr. Vale." "Sebastian, let's approach this practically. You have children. That's unfortunate timing given your engagement, but it's not insurmountable. We can arrange for financial support, establish trusts, ensure they're taken care of, discreetly." "I don't want to take care of them discreetly," Sebastian said. "I want to be their father, publicly, actually." "That's not possible," Clarissa said flatly. "I'm not going to be humiliated by playing stepmother to some nobody's children. Maya is not a nobody." "She's a food truck operator, Sebastian. She's nothing." Clarissa's careful composure was cracking. And those children, they're accidents, mistakes. You can't seriously expect me to welcome them into our lives like some ready-made family. Sebastian set down his Scotch glass with deliberate care. When he spoke, his voice was dangerously quiet. Those children are not mistakes. They're not accidents. They're human beings who deserve better than to be called names by someone who's never worked a day in her life for anything that mattered. How dare you? No, how dare you? Sebastian's voice rose. You want to know why I never loved you, Clarissa? Why this engagement has always felt like a business transaction? This is why. Because when faced with something real, something that actually matters, you reduce it to social standing and embarrassment. Sebastian, Victor's voice was ice. That's enough. No, it's not enough. It's not nearly enough. Sebastian turned to his grandfather. You taught me to be cold, to calculate every relationship as a transaction, to see people as assets or liabilities, and I learned those lessons well. So well that when Maya Bennett came into my life, when I found someone who actually saw me as a person instead of a name or a bank account, I destroyed it because you told me she was a liability. Victor's expression didn't change. She was a liability. The Kozlovs had her under surveillance. So you knew. The realization hit Sebastian like a physical blow. You knew about the threat and you didn't help me protect her. You just told me to cut her loose. It was the most efficient solution. Efficient, Sebastian laughed bitterly. You cost me 4 years with my children because it was efficient. I saved that woman's life, Victor said coldly. The Kozlovs would have used her against you, tortured her, killed her. By making her irrelevant, you removed the target from her back. You're welcome. And the pregnancy, did you know about that too? For the first time, Victor hesitated. It was barely a pause, just a fraction of a second, but Sebastian caught it. You did. His voice was hollow. You knew she was pregnant, and you kept it from me. I found out 6 months after the birth, Victor said. One of our associates saw her with the children. I had it investigated. And you said nothing. What would have been the point? You'd moved on. The engagement to Clarissa was arranged. Telling you would have complicated matters unnecessarily. Sebastian felt something inside him break. Not crack. Break. Completely and irreparably. Get out, he said quietly. Victor raised an eyebrow. I beg your pardon? Get out of my home, all of you, now. Sebastian, you're being irrational. I'm being irrational? Sebastian's voice rose. You kept my children from me for 4 years and I'm the one being irrational? I kept you from making a mistake that would have compromised everything. They're not a mistake, the words came out as a roar. They're children, my children, and you treated them like they were problems to be managed instead of human beings who deserve to know their father. The room fell silent. Even Clarissa looked stunned by the raw emotion in Sebastian's voice. Victor straightened his tie, his expression cooling to absolute zero. I see. So you're choosing them over your family. They are my family. No. Victor's voice was final. Your family is here. Your responsibilities are here. Your legacy is here. Those children are a complication from a relationship that should never have happened. If you insist on acknowledging them, fine. Provide for them financially. But if you think you're going to throw away your engagement, your position, your entire future for a woman who kept your children's secret and 3 toddlers you barely know. I love them. The words fell into the silence like stones into still water. Victor stared at him. You met them yesterday. I know. Sebastian's voice was steady now, certain. And I love them. I love the way Noah watches everything with those serious eyes and asks questions that cut right to the truth. I love the way Ivy talks like she's trying to use up all the words in the world before bedtime. I love the way Owen lines up his cars in perfect rows and the way his whole face lights up when he accomplishes something new. He met his grandfather's gaze without flinching. I love them the way I should have been allowed to love them from the beginning, and I'm done letting you tell me what I'm allowed to feel. Victor was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of finality. Then you're done being a veil. Sebastian had expected it, had known it was coming from the moment he decided to stand his ground. But hearing it spoken aloud still felt like a punch to the gut. What does that mean? He asked quietly. It means exactly what it sounds like. If you walk away from this engagement, if you publicly claim those children, if you choose that woman over your responsibilities to this family, you're out. Completely. No inheritance, no position in the organization, no protection. Victor, Richard Hart interjected, perhaps we should discuss this more calmly. There's nothing to discuss. Victor's eyes never left Sebastian's face. My grandson seems to think he can have everything, his children, his independence, and his inheritance, but life doesn't work that way, so he needs to choose. Clarissa found her voice. You can't be serious. You're going to disown him over some random woman and her brats? They're not random, Sebastian said, and they're not brats. They're innocent children who've done nothing wrong. Except exist, Clarissa shot back. Sebastian looked at her, really looked at her, and wondered how he'd ever convinced himself he could spend his life with someone so fundamentally incapable of empathy. The engagement is off, he said quietly. Clarissa's face went white. What? You heard me. I can't marry you, Clarissa. I won't. You're throwing away everything for them? Her voice rose to a near shriek. Your entire future? Your family's business? Your inheritance? For what? A struggling single mother and 3 kids who probably aren't even yours? Sebastian's hands clenched. They're mine. I know they're mine. How? How do you know? Because one of them has your eyes? Clarissa laughed harshly. Get a paternity test, Sebastian. Before you burn your entire life down, at least make sure. I don't need a test. Of course you do. She could be lying. She could have seen an opportunity and Maya didn't even want to tell me about them, Sebastian said quietly. She ran away in the park. She tried to hide them from me. If she was after money or position, don't you think she would have come to me 4 years ago? Clarissa opened her mouth, then closed it, apparently lacking an argument. Richard Hart stepped forward. Sebastian, I understand you're emotional right now, but think about what you're doing. The Hartvale merger has been in planning for 2 years. If you walk away from Clarissa, my family walks away from the business deal. That's billions of dollars in lost revenue. Then I guess you'll lose billions of dollars. Your grandfather will disown you. I heard him? You'll have nothing, no money, no power, no protection from your enemies. Richard's voice turned calculating. And those children you claim to love so much? They'll be targets. Everyone who's ever wanted to hurt the Vale family will see them as leverage. Is that what you want? The words hit their mark. Sebastian felt cold wash over him. Richard saw the opening and pressed. But if you stay engaged to Clarissa, if you maintain your position in the family, you can protect them, provide for them, keep them safe from a distance. Isn't that better than dragging them into the spotlight and making them vulnerable? It was the same argument that had worked 4 years ago, the same logic that had convinced Sebastian to walk away from Maya, destroy the relationship to save the person. But this time, Sebastian saw the flaw in the reasoning. No, he said quietly. No. 4 years ago, I walked away from Maya to protect her. I made myself irrelevant in her life so she wouldn't be a target. And you know what happened? Sebastian's voice was steady. She struggled alone, raised 3 children in poverty, nearly lost them to CPS because she couldn't afford rent, suffered through a high-risk pregnancy with no support. All because I wasn't there. He met Richard's gaze. So don't tell me that abandoning them will keep them safe. The safest place for my children is with me, where I can see the threats coming and deal with them head on. Sebastian, Victor's voice held a warning. I'm done hiding, Sebastian cut him off. I'm done pretending. I'm done letting fear make my decisions for me. He turned to Eli. Call a press conference for tomorrow. I'm making a statement. Eli's eyes widened. Boss, are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Victor stood slowly, and there was something final in the movement. You understand what you're doing. Yes. You're choosing them over everything I've built, everything you could have been. No, Sebastian said quietly. I'm choosing them over everything I never wanted to be. Victor studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded once, sharp and final. Very well. Consider yourself removed from all family business interests, effective immediately. Your trust fund is frozen. Your position in the organization is terminated. And your name? He paused. Your name is your own now. You're no longer my heir. Understood. Victor, wait. Richard tried to intervene, but Victor was already heading to the elevator, his back ramrod straight, his expression carved from stone. The doors closed behind him without another word. Clarissa stared at Sebastian, her face a mask of disbelief and fury. You're actually doing this. You're actually throwing everything away. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm choosing what matters. What matters? She laughed, high and broken. We were going to have everything, Sebastian. Power, wealth, influence. We were going to run this city. And you're giving it all up for what? Domestic bliss in a Brooklyn walk-up? Playing daddy to someone else's mistakes? They're not mistakes, Sebastian said for what felt like the 100th time. They're my children, and yes, I'm choosing them over all of this. He gestured at the penthouse around them. Because this isn't real. These people aren't real. You're not real, Clarissa. You're a transaction in a designer dress. Her hand cracked across his face before he saw it coming. The slap echoed through the apartment. How dare you? She whispered, her voice shaking with rage. How dare you stand there and act like you're better than me? Like you're making some noble sacrifice. You're just a coward who couldn't handle real responsibility, so you're running away to play house. Sebastian touched his stinging cheek. If that's what you need to believe. I hope it destroys you, Clarissa said, her voice venomous. I hope you lose everything. I hope that woman breaks your heart again. I hope those children turn out to be nothing like you and you realize too late what you've given up. I hope... That's enough, Clarissa. Richard took his daughter's arm firmly. We're leaving. But Daddy, now. Richard steered Clarissa toward the elevator, but he paused at the doors. You're making a mistake, Sebastian. You'll realize it eventually, and when you do, don't come crawling back. I won't, Sebastian said. The elevator doors closed on Clarissa's tear-stained face and Richard's disappointed scowl. The apartment fell silent. Sebastian stood in the middle of his $1 million penthouse, surrounded by artwork that cost more than most people made in a year, with a view of Central Park that real estate agents would kill for, and felt lighter than he had in a decade. Boss? Eli's voice was cautious. Are you okay? I'm fine. Victor just disowned you. I know. Clarissa slapped you. I noticed. Oh, you just threw away billions of dollars and your entire future. Sebastian turned to look at his friend. Really, look at him. No, I threw away their future. I'm building my own now. Eli studied him, then slowly smiled. You're serious about this? Completely. You realize you're going to have enemies. People who'll see those kids as leverage. The Kozlovs aren't going to forget about you just because Victor disowned you. I know. And you're doing this anyway. I'm doing this because of it. Sebastian moved to the window, looking out over the park. Somewhere out there on the other side of the river, 3 children were probably getting ready for dinner. I spent 4 years trying to protect Maya by staying away. All I did was leave her vulnerable and alone. I'm not making that mistake again. So what's the plan? Sebastian turned back to face Eli. First, I need to secure the kids legally. Paternity test, custody arrangement, whatever Maya agrees to. Second, I need to liquidate my personal assets, the ones Victor can't touch. Third, I need to make it very clear to anyone considering making a move against my family that I'm not walking away from the Vale name. I'm weaponizing it. Eli's eyebrows rose. Weaponizing it? Victor thinks disowning me makes me weak. He's wrong. Every enemy the Vale family has made over the years, every business partner we've screwed, every rival we've crushed, they're all going to get a very interesting phone call from me. You're going to burn it all down. I'm going to make sure that anyone who comes after my children knows exactly what kind of hell I can rain down on them. Sebastian's smile was cold. I learned from the best, after all. Eli was quiet for a moment, then nodded. I'm in. Eli, you don't have to... I said I'm in. Eli's voice was firm. You think I've stuck around this long because of the paycheck? I've watched you be miserable for years, boss. If you're finally doing something that makes you happy, I'm not walking away now. Something in Sebastian's chest tightened. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've got a lot of work to do. Eli pulled out his phone. First things first, that press conference. What exactly are you planning to say? Sebastian thought about Noah's serious questions, Ivy's infectious enthusiasm, Owen's quiet determination to master each new skill. He thought about Maya's exhausted strength, her fierce protection of her children, her refusal to make things easy for him just because he showed up with money. He thought about the life he could have had if he'd been braver 4 years ago, and the life he was going to build now, regardless of the cost. The truth, he said simply. I'm going to tell the truth. The next morning arrived too quickly. Sebastian hadn't slept, had instead spent the night working with Eli to arrange everything that needed arranging. Lawyers were contacted. Assets were evaluated. Security measures were implemented. By dawn, Sebastian had a plan and a splitting headache. He showed up at Maya's apartment at 8:30, as promised, carrying coffee and bagels from her favorite place. He'd remembered after 4 years. When she opened the door, surprise flickered across her face. You came. I said I would. Maya stepped back to let him in. The kids were eating breakfast again, this time at the table that didn't wobble. They looked up when Sebastian entered, and he felt his heart constrict at their varying reactions. Ivy's face lit up like sunshine. You're back! I told Noah you'd come back. Noah studied Sebastian with those two knowing eyes. You look tired. I am tired, Sebastian admitted. Did something bad happen? Noah's perception was uncanny. Something complicated happened, but I'm handling it. Owen looked up briefly, made eye contact for a split second, then returned to his precisely organized breakfast. But Sebastian counted it as a victory. Maya closed the door behind him. Can we talk? Privately? They stepped into the small bedroom while the kids finished eating. Maya crossed her arms, her expression guarded. I saw the news this morning, she said quietly. Sebastian's stomach dropped. What news? Social media is blowing up about Clarissa Hart's broken engagement. People are speculating about the reason. Some gossip columnist is claiming you were seen in Brooklyn yesterday. Maya's eyes searched his face. What did you do, Sebastian? What I should have done 4 years ago. He met her gaze steadily. I chose you. I chose our children, and I accepted the consequences. What consequences? My grandfather disowned me. My engagement is over. My position in the family business is gone. He watched her process this information. I'm holding a press conference this afternoon to announce that I have 3 children and that I'm publicly claiming them as mine. Maya went white. You're what? I'm telling the truth, Maya. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of pretending. These kids deserve a father who isn't ashamed of them. Nobody said anything about being ashamed. Then what would you call it? Keeping them secret? Providing for them from a distance? That's not being a father. That's being a check in the mail. And what happens when your enemies decide to use them against you? Maya's voice rose. What happens when someone threatens them to get to you? You think going public keeps them safe? I think hiding them makes them vulnerable, Sebastian countered. 4 years ago, I tried to protect you by walking away. How did that work out? Maya flinched. That's not fair. It's true. You struggled alone because I wasn't there. Well, I'm here now, and I'm not hiding anymore. You can't just... Maya pressed her hands to her face. You can't just blow up your entire life and expect me to be okay with it. I'm not asking your permission. I'm telling you what's happening. Sebastian's voice softened. But I'm asking you to trust me, to let me do this, to let me be their father publicly and proudly. Maya lowered her hands, and Sebastian saw fear and hope warring in her expression. And if it goes wrong, if someone comes after them, then I'll deal with it. That's what fathers do. Mama? Ivy's voice called from the living room. Can we show Sebastian our room? Maya took a shaky breath. We'll discuss this more later, but Sebastian, if you're really doing this press conference, those kids need to be prepared. They need to understand what's coming. I know. Help me? She nodded slowly. Okay, but if this blows up in our faces, it won't. You can't promise that. No, Sebastian admitted. but I can promise I'll be here to face it with you. That's more than I gave you before." Maya stared at him for a long moment, then sighed. "Come on, let's go talk to them." They gathered the children in the living room. 3 small faces looked up at Sebastian and Maya with varying degrees of curiosity. "Guys, we need to talk about something important," Maya started. "Are you sick?" Noah asked immediately, fear flashing in his eyes. "No, baby, I'm not sick. Nobody's sick." Maya glanced at Sebastian. "Sebastian has something he needs to tell you." 3 pairs of eyes turned to him. Sebastian's mouth went dry. "How did you explain to 4-year-olds that their lives were about to change completely?" "You know how you have a mama who takes care of you?" he started. Ivy nodded enthusiastically. Noah watched him carefully. Owen's gaze had returned to his toys, but Sebastian could tell he was listening. "Well, everyone also has a father, someone who helped make them, who's supposed to help take care of them and love them." "Like Jacob's daddy," Ivy said. "He picks Jacob up from daycare sometimes." "Exactly like that." Sebastian took a breath. "The thing is, I'm your father. I'm your daddy." Silence fell over the room. Ivy's eyes went wide. Noah's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his gaze. Owen's hand stilled on his toys. "You?" Ivy's voice was small. "You're our daddy?" "Yes." "But where were you?" The question came from Noah, and it cut like a knife. "Daddies are supposed to be there. You weren't there." "You're right," Sebastian said, his voice rough. "I should have been there. I made a mistake, Noah. A big one. And I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix it," Noah said, echoing something he must have heard Maya say 100 times. "No, it doesn't, but I'm here now, and I'm not leaving again." Owen suddenly stood up, walked over to Sebastian, and held out one of his toy cars. Sebastian took it carefully, and Owen nodded once before returning to his spot on the floor. Sebastian's throat tightened. He looked at Maya, who had tears running down her face. "Does this mean we have a daddy now?" Ivy asked, her voice hopeful. "If you want me," Sebastian said. "I know I haven't earned it yet, but I'd like to try." Ivy launched herself at him, wrapping her small arms around his neck. "I always wanted a daddy." Sebastian held her, feeling her tiny heart beating against his chest, and something inside him cracked wide open. Noah approached more cautiously, studying Sebastian's face. "You're really not leaving?" "I'm really not leaving." "Promise?" "I promise, Noah. I will be here for you and your brother and sister for as long as you'll let me." Noah considered this, then held out his hand solemnly. Sebastian shook it, man to man, promise to promise. Owen remained where he was, lining up his cars, but he was humming now. A sound Maya had told Sebastian meant he was content. "There's something else," Sebastian said gently. "This afternoon, I'm going to talk to some people with cameras, reporters, and I'm going to tell them about you guys, about being your father." "Why?" Noah asked. "Because I'm proud of you, and because I don't want to hide you. I want the whole world to know that you're mine." "Will we be on TV?" Ivy's eyes sparkled. "Maybe. Is that okay?" Ivy nodded enthusiastically. Noah looked less certain. Owen didn't respond. "It might get weird for a little while," Sebastian continued. "People might take pictures, might ask questions, but I promise I'll keep you safe." "Okay," Ivy said trustingly. Noah's gaze moved to his mother. "Mama, is this okay?" Maya wiped her eyes. "Yeah, baby, it's okay." It was far from okay, Sebastian knew. This was terrifying for her, trusting him with their children's safety after he'd failed so spectacularly before. But she was doing it anyway. That afternoon, Sebastian stood in front of a room full of reporters and cameras and told the truth. He explained that he had 3 children he hadn't known about until recently. He publicly claimed them as his. He acknowledged his broken engagement and his departure from the Vale family business. And he made it very clear that anyone who came after his children would regret it. The questions came fast and furious. Where was the mother? What were the children's names? Was he seeking custody? Had there been a paternity test? Sebastian answered what he could and deflected what he couldn't. And when one particularly aggressive reporter asked if he was worried about exposing his children to danger, Sebastian's expression went cold. "I'm more worried about what I'll do to anyone who threatens them," he said quietly. Next question. The press conference ended. Sebastian returned to his penthouse to find Eli waiting with news. It's chaos out there, Eli reported. Social media is losing its mind. The Vale family released a statement essentially cutting you off, and he paused. There's been chatter about the Kozlovs. Sebastian's blood ran cold. What kind of chatter? They're interested in you walking away from Victor's protection, in the children. Eli's expression was grim. We need to increase security, boss. Now. Do it, whatever it takes. That night, Sebastian returned to Brooklyn. Maya opened the door looking exhausted. It's everywhere, she said. Every channel, every website, pictures of this building, reporters asking neighbors about us. I'm sorry. Don't. She held up a hand. You warned me. I knew this was coming. It's a lot. I know. I've arranged security. There'll be someone watching the building 24/7, and I want you and the kids to move. Move where? I have a property in Brooklyn Heights. Townhouse, private, secure. You'd each have your own room. There's a yard. Good schools nearby. Maya's jaw tightened. We're not your charity case, Sebastian. You're the mother of my children. Let me keep you safe. They stared at each other, the old hurt and the new hope tangled between them. Finally, Maya nodded. Okay, but we're paying rent. Maya, sit. Rent, Sebastian, or we don't move. He could see there was no arguing with her. Fine. $1 a month. You're impossible. I learned from the best, he said, and was rewarded with the ghost of a smile. But that night, as Sebastian sat in his too-empty penthouse, his phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Cute kids. Would be a shame if something happened to them. Sebastian stared at the message, ice flooding his veins. Then he forwarded it to Eli with one word. Find them. The war had begun. Sebastian didn't sleep that night. He sat in his study with every light blazing, forwarding the threatening text to every contact he had in law enforcement, private security, and the darker corners of the world he'd once inhabited. By 3 a.m, Eli had traced the burner phone to a convenience store in Queens, purchased with cash, untraceable beyond that point. The Kozlovs were making their move. At 6 a.m., Sebastian was back in his car, heading to Brooklyn. He'd already arranged for a security team to set up outside Maya's building, and now he needed to convince her to move immediately, not next week or when it was convenient. Now. Today. Before the threat became action. Maya opened the door in her pajamas, her hair a mess, exhaustion written into every line of her face. Behind her, Sebastian could hear the sounds of children waking up, Ivy's cheerful chatter, Owen's humming, Noah's quieter voice asking questions. It's 6 a.m, Maya said. We need to move you today. Something in his tone made her straighten. What happened? Sebastian showed her the text. He watched the color drain from her face as she read it once, twice, 3 times. Oh my God, she whispered. I have people tracking down the source, but in the meantime, I need you and the kids somewhere secure. The townhouse is ready. We can have you moved in by noon. Sebastian, I can't just... Maya stopped, looking back at the apartment where her children slept. I have a business. I have obligations. You have children who are being threatened. Don't you think I know that? Her voice cracked. Don't you think I've been terrified every single day for 4 years that someone would find out about them? That someone would use them to hurt you? This is exactly what I was afraid of. I know. No, you don't know. Maya's whisper turned sharp. You had one threatening text and you're ready to uproot our entire lives. I've had 4 years of fear, 4 years of looking over my shoulder, 4 years of checking every shadow and jumping at every strange car and lying awake wondering if today was the day someone figured out who their father was. Sebastian felt like he'd been punched. Maya. And now it's happening. Now the exact thing I was terrified of is coming true. And you're standing here telling me to trust you, to let you protect us, when you're the reason we need protection in the first place. Her voice had risen enough that small footsteps approached from the bedroom. Noah appeared in the doorway, his gray eyes worried. Mama? Why are you yelling? Maya took a shaky breath. I'm sorry, baby. I'm just talking to Sebastian about grown-up things. Are we in trouble? No, sweetheart. Everything's fine. But Noah looked at Sebastian, and those two perceptive eyes saw right through the lie. Something bad is happening. Sebastian knelt down to Noah's level. Something potentially bad might happen. Which is why we're going to make sure you and your brother and sister are somewhere very safe. How safe? So safe that nothing and nobody can hurt you. Noah considered this. Is someone trying to hurt us? Sebastian looked at Maya, silently asking permission. She nodded reluctantly. Maybe, Sebastian said honestly. I don't know for sure, but I'm not going to wait to find out. I'm going to keep you safe before anything bad can happen. Because you're our daddy now? Because I'm your father, and that's what fathers do. Noah studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, I'll help pack. He disappeared back into the bedroom, and Sebastian heard him wake up his siblings with the news that they were going on an adventure. Ivy's excited squeal followed, and even Owen's humming took on a brighter quality. Maya leaned against the doorframe, looking defeated. You can't just promise them safety, Sebastian. You can't control everything. No, but I can control more than you can alone. He stood, moving closer but not touching. I know I'm the reason you're in danger. I know this is my fault. But Maya, I can't change the past. All I can do is try to protect you now. Please, let me do that. She closed her eyes. The townhouse. How secure is it really? Former safe house. Reinforced doors and windows. Security system connected directly to a private firm. Panic room. And I'll have armed guards outside 24/7. That sounds like a prison. It sounds like safety. Sebastian's voice was gentle. Just until I can neutralize the threat. Once the Kozlovs understand that coming after you means war with me, they'll back off. And if they don't, then I'll make them back off. The cold certainty in his voice made Maya's eyes open. She looked at him like she was seeing someone different, not the man who'd broken her heart 4 years ago, or the one who'd shown up with furniture and promises, but someone harder, someone dangerous. That's who you really are, isn't it? She said quietly, under the nice sweaters and the gentle voice. You're still Victor Vale's grandson. I'm still a lot of things, but right now, I'm a father who will do whatever it takes to keep his children safe. Sebastian met her gaze steadily. So tell me, Maya, are we moving today or not? She looked past him to where the kids were already pulling clothes out of drawers, treating the sudden move like an exciting game. Then she looked back at Sebastian. We moved today, she said. But Sebastian, this doesn't mean I trust you. This means I'm out of options. I'll take what I can get. The move happened with military efficiency. Eli arrived with a truck and a team of movers who had the apartment packed within 2 hours. The kids thought it was the best adventure ever, especially when they saw the townhouse. It was a beautiful brownstone in Brooklyn Heights, 4 stories of elegance and security disguised as a family home. Each child got their own bedroom. Ivy immediately claimed the one with the window seat, Noah chose the room with the bookshelf, and Owen gravitated toward the quietest room at the back of the house. Maya stood in the master bedroom, looking around at the space that was bigger than her entire previous apartment. This is too much, she said for the 100th time. It's safe, Sebastian countered. That's all that matters. I can't afford this. $1 a month, remember? Sebastian, Maya. He turned to face her. I have 3 town cars, a penthouse in Manhattan, and more money than I know what to do with. Let me spend some of it keeping you safe. It's not about the money. Her voice was quiet. It's about what it means. You're taking care of us, providing for us. That's what I wanted 4 years ago, what I needed, and you weren't there. The words hung in the air between them. You're right, Sebastian said finally. I wasn't there. I made a choice to walk away and you paid the price. You and the kids paid the price, and I can't undo that. He paused. But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving. So you can punish me for the past, or you can let me help with the present. Your choice. Maya looked at him for a long moment, emotions flickering across her face too quickly to name. Finally, she said, I need to check on the kids. She left him standing in the bedroom alone, and Sebastian knew that forgiveness, if it ever came, would be earned in inches, not leaps. Over the next 3 days, Sebastian worked around the clock to neutralize the Kozlov threat. He reached out to old contacts, called in favors, and made it very clear through back channels that his children were completely off limits. Anyone who touched them would face consequences that made death look merciful. The responses came back slowly. Some contacts were supportive. Others were skeptical that Sebastian could back up his threats without the Vale family resources behind him. A few simply ignored him, assuming his grandfather's disownment had made him irrelevant. Those were the ones Sebastian made examples of. A rival family that had been encroaching on Vale territory suddenly found their operation shut down by federal raids. A corrupt politician who'd been in the Kozlov pocket discovered his offshore accounts had been frozen. A weapons dealer who'd sent a message suggesting Sebastian was now vulnerable woke up to find every one of his shipments intercepted. The message spread quickly. Sebastian Vale might be cut off from his family, but he was far from powerless. On the 4th day, Eli brought news. The Kozlovs want to meet. Sebastian looked up from the security reports he'd been reviewing. When? Tonight, neutral territory. They're proposing the restaurant in Little Odessa. That's their territory, not neutral. I know, but they're insisting. Eli's expression was grim. They also said to come alone. Absolutely not. Boss, if we refuse, then we refuse. I'm not walking into a Kozlov stronghold alone. Sebastian stood, pacing. Tell them I'll meet with them, but location is my choice and I'm bringing security. They won't like it. I don't care what they like. Those are my terms. Eli made the call while Sebastian tried to control the anxiety clawing at his chest. He dealt with the Kozlovs before, back when he had Victor's full backing and the weight of the Vale name behind every word. Now he was operating alone, and they knew it, but they'd also seen what he could do in just 3 days. Hopefully, that would be enough to make them think twice about pushing. Eli hung up. They agreed. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., at the warehouse district. You can bring 2 people. You and Marcus, Sebastian decided. Marcus was their best security specialist, former special forces, and absolutely loyal. What about Maya? She needs to know about this. She's already terrified. I'm not adding to it until I know what we're dealing with. Boss, I'll tell her after the meeting. Sebastian's voice was final. Right now, she and the kids are safe in the townhouse. That's all that matters. But when Sebastian showed up at the townhouse that evening to have dinner with the kids, a routine he'd established over the past few days, he found Maya waiting for him in the kitchen with her arms crossed and fire in her eyes. I heard about the meeting, she said without preamble. Sebastian froze. How? I'm not an idiot, Sebastian. I've been living in fear of these people for 4 years. I have contacts, people who keep me informed. She stepped closer. You were going to go meet with the Kozlovs and not tell me? I didn't want to worry you. I'm already worried. I've been worried since the moment you walked back into our lives. Her voice rose, then dropped as she remembered the children upstairs. You can't just make decisions like this without telling me. These are my children too. I know that. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're making all the choices and expecting me to just go along with it. Sebastian ran a hand through his hair. What do you want me to do, Maya? Ask your permission before I try to protect our family? I want you to include me. I want to know what's happening. She stopped, her voice breaking. I want to feel like we're partners in this, not like I'm just some damsel you're rescuing. The words hit home. Sebastian looked at this woman who'd survived 4 years alone, who'd raised 3 children through poverty and fear and exhaustion, who'd built a life out of nothing without anyone's help. You're right, he said quietly. I'm sorry. I should have told you. Maya blinked, clearly surprised by the quick concession. Oh. The meeting is tomorrow at 2. The Kozlovs want to discuss terms. What kind of terms? I don't know yet, but I'm guessing they want to negotiate some kind of understanding. I've made it expensive for them to come after us. Now they want to see if there's a cheaper option. And if there isn't, then we go to war. Sebastian met her gaze. And I'll win, Maya. Whatever it takes, I'll win. She studied him, and he could see her trying to reconcile the gentleman who played with their children with the cold strategist discussing war. I want to come to the meeting, she said. Absolutely not. Sebastian? No. His voice was firm. I will include you in decisions. I will tell you what's happening, but I will not bring you into a room with people who've already threatened our children. That's non-negotiable. They stared at each other, neither willing to back down. Daddy? Ivy's voice called from upstairs. Are you staying for dinner? The moment broke. Maya shook her head. We'll discuss this later. Go see your kids. Sebastian climbed the stairs to find all three children in Ivy's room, which had somehow become the central gathering place. Ivy was showing Noah and Owen her new collection of stuffed animals. Sebastian had maybe gone overboard at the toy store, while Noah organized them by size and Owen lined them up by color. Daddy! Ivy launched herself at him. The word still made Sebastian's heart skip every time he heard it. Hey, sweetheart, what are you guys up to? We're organizing, Noah said seriously. Ivy has too many toys and they need a system. I don't have too many, Ivy protested. You can never have too many friends. Stuffed animals aren't friends, Noah argued. They are too. Right, Daddy? Sebastian found himself being drawn into a debate about the sentience of stuffed animals, and despite the stress of the upcoming meeting, despite the threats and the fear, he felt something close to peace. This was what mattered, not power or money or family legacy. Three children arguing about toys, a daughter who called him Daddy without hesitation, a son who was slowly learning to trust him, another son who showed his affection through shared cars and quiet humming. Owen approached him now, holding out a stuffed elephant. Sebastian took it carefully. For you, Owen said quietly, to keep you safe. Sebastian's throat tightened. Thank you, buddy. I'll take very good care of him. Owen nodded, satisfied, and returned to his color-coded line of animals. Maya appeared in the doorway. Dinner's ready. They ate together at the large dining table, a real family dinner with plates that matched and enough food for everyone. Ivy chattered about wanting a pet. Noah asked thoughtful questions about how buildings were constructed. Owen ate his food in careful sections, never letting different items touch. And Sebastian memorized every moment, knowing that tomorrow he might have to destroy people to keep this fragile peace intact. After dinner, after stories and teeth brushing and tucking three small bodies into three separate beds, Sebastian found Maya in the kitchen cleaning up. Let me help, he said. They washed dishes in silence for a while before Maya spoke. They're getting attached to you. Is that a bad thing? I don't know yet. She handed him a plate to dry. Ivy already thinks you hung the moon. Noah's starting to let his guard down. Even Owen is engaging with you more. But what happens if you leave again? What happens if this gets too hard or too dangerous or too real? Maya's voice was quiet. They're children, Sebastian. They can't protect their hearts the way adults can. I'm not leaving. You said that 4 years ago. The words hung between them like smoke. I didn't say it 4 years ago, Sebastian corrected gently. I said the opposite. I told you that you were a mistake, that I regretted you. I pushed you away as hard as I could. To protect me, Maya said bitterly. I know, you've explained. Yes, to protect you, and I was wrong. Sebastian set down the dish towel and turned to face her. Not about you being in danger. That was real. The Kozlovs were watching you. They would have used you against me, but I was wrong to think that making you hate me was the solution. Then what should you have done? I should have trusted you enough to explain, should have given you the choice instead of making it for you, should have found a way to keep you safe while staying in your life. He paused. I should have been braver. Maya's hands stilled in the soapy water. Why weren't you? Because I was 25 years old and terrified. Because Victor told me it was the only way. Because I'd spent my whole life learning that caring about people made them targets, and I didn't know how to protect someone I loved without pushing them away. Loved, Maya repeated quietly. Past tense? Sebastian looked at her, really looked at her. At the woman who'd survived everything he'd thrown at her and come out stronger. At the mother who'd raised 3 incredible children alone. At the only person who'd ever made him want to be more than his last name. No, he said. not past tense. Maya's breath caught. Sebastian, I know I have no right to say that. I know I destroyed what we had. But Maya, I never stopped loving you. Not when I walked away. Not during 4 years of trying to forget you. Not for a single day. His voice was rough. And seeing you now, seeing what you've become, seeing the way you love those kids, I love you more than I did back then, which I didn't think was possible. Tears were streaming down Maya's face. You can't just say things like that. Why not? It's true. Because it's not fair. Her voice broke. It's not fair to tell me you love me when I'm still so angry at you, when I'm still hurt, when I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I know. Then why say it? Because I'm done hiding, done pretending, done playing it safe. Sebastian took a step closer, but didn't touch her. I love you, Maya. I love our children. And I will spend the rest of my life proving that I'm not going anywhere, whether you forgive me or not. Maya pressed her hands to her face, her shoulders shaking. Sebastian wanted to reach for her, to hold her, but he forced himself to stay still. This wasn't about what he wanted, it was about giving her space to feel whatever she needed to feel. Finally, she lowered her hands. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Any of this. Let you back in, trust you with the kids, trust you with... She stopped. With my heart again. Then don't, Sebastian said gently. Not yet. Not until you're ready. I'm not going anywhere, Maya. I'll wait as long as it takes. She studied him through tear-filled eyes. What if I'm never ready? Then I'll love you anyway. The silence stretched between them, heavy with years of hurt and hope. Finally, Maya said, The meeting tomorrow. Tell me everything. So he did. They sat at the kitchen table until midnight, and Sebastian laid out every detail of the Kozlov situation, his strategy, his backup plans, his fears. Maya listened, asked sharp questions, and occasionally suggested angles he hadn't considered. By the time they finished, Sebastian had a better plan and a deeper respect for the woman across from him. Thank you, he said. For what? For caring, for being invested in keeping us safe, for... He paused. For not giving up on us completely. Maya smiled sadly. Those kids are half yours. Like it or not, we're connected now. I can't give up on us because that would mean giving up on them. It wasn't a declaration of love, it wasn't forgiveness, but it was something, and Sebastian would take it. The next day, Sebastian arrived at the warehouse district with Eli and Marcus flanking him. The building the Kozlovs had chosen was abandoned, or appeared to be, which made Sebastian's instincts scream danger. I don't like this, Marcus muttered. Neither do I, Sebastian agreed. Stay sharp. They entered the warehouse to find 4 men waiting. 3 were clearly muscle, large, armed, and watching Sebastian's every move. The 4th was Alexei Kozlov himself, head of the family, looking relaxed despite the tension in the room. Sebastian Vale, Alexei said, his accent thick. You've been busy this week. I've been protecting my family. By destroying mine? Alexei's smile didn't reach his eyes. You cost us 3 operations and $2 million in seized product. Consider it a warning. A warning, Alexei laughed. You come into my house, threaten my business, and call it a warning. You have balls. I'll give you that. I have children, Sebastian corrected, and anyone who threatens them learns that I can be much worse than a warning. The temperature in the room dropped. Alexei's smile faded. Those children, he said quietly, are they really worth starting a war over? They're worth ending one over. Alexei studied him. Your grandfather would be ashamed. Victor Vale didn't let sentiment cloud his judgment. My grandfather is the reason I'm here instead of at his side. So his opinion stopped mattering to me the moment he put business before family. And yet you expect me to do the same? To back away from profitable opportunities because you've decided to play daddy? Alexei shook his head. That's not how this works, Sebastian. Then let me explain how it works now. Sebastian's voice went cold. You leave my family alone, and I leave yours alone. You come after them, and I burn the Kozlov empire to the ground. Not just your operations here, every port you control, every politician in your pocket, every dirty deal you've made from Brighton Beach to Moscow. I'll expose all of it. You're bluffing. Am I? Sebastian pulled out his phone and showed Alexei a file directory. Financial records, communications, evidence of crimes dating back 15 years, all compiled, all verified, all ready to go to the FBI the moment something happens to anyone I care about. Alexei's expression darkened. How did you... I learned from the best, remember? Victor Vale kept files on everyone, and when he disowned me, I took copies. Sebastian pocketed his phone. So here's the deal. You back off. You tell everyone in your organization that Sebastian Vale's family is untouchable, and in return, these files stay buried. And if I refuse, then we both lose. Your empire crumbles, and I spend the rest of my life in hiding. But Alexei, I'm willing to lose everything for my children. Are you? The two men stared at each other across the warehouse floor. Sebastian could feel Eli and Marcus tensing beside him, ready for violence. Finally, Alexei laughed, a genuine sound. You really are Victor's grandson. He would have made the same play. I'm nothing like Victor. No, you're better. Because you have something to fight for beyond power. Alexei nodded slowly. Okay, Sebastian Vale, we have a deal. Your family is off limits, but this protection only extends to them. You come after my business again, and all bets are off. Understood. They shook hands, and Sebastian felt the knot in his chest loosen slightly. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even safe, really. But it was a détente, and that was more than he'd had yesterday. As Sebastian and his team left the warehouse, Eli said quietly, You really have those files? Most of them. The rest I bluffed. And if he'd called your bluff? Sebastian thought about 3 children sleeping safely in a townhouse in Brooklyn Heights, about a woman who'd raised them alone and was slowly, carefully considering whether to trust him again. Then I would have found a way to make it real, he said simply. That evening, he returned to the townhouse to find chaos. Maya was on the phone with someone, her voice tight with stress. The kids were nowhere to be seen. What's wrong? Sebastian asked immediately. Maya held up a finger, finishing her conversation. When she hung up, her expression was strained. CPS called. They want to do their 3-month follow-up early, tomorrow morning. Why? They got another anonymous report, this time claiming that you're using the children as leverage in criminal activities. Maya's laugh was bitter. Someone's not giving up. Sebastian's jaw clenched. It's not the Kozlovs. We just made a deal. Then who? The answer hit him like a freight train. Clarissa, your ex-fiancée? She knows about CPS. She knows it's your weak point, and she's vindictive enough to keep pushing even after I've walked away. Sebastian pulled out his phone. I'll handle this. How? By making very clear that threatening my children through legal channels is still threatening my children. He made 3 calls. The first was to his lawyer, arranging for representation at the CPS visit. The second was to a private investigator, requesting immediate surveillance on Clarissa Hart. The third was to Clarissa herself. She answered on the first ring. I wondered when you'd call. Stop, Sebastian said simply. Stop what? The CPS reports, the harassment, whatever game you're playing. I have no idea what you're talking about, but he could hear the smile in her voice. Clarissa, I walked away from you, from the engagement, from the life you wanted. That should be enough. Should be, but isn't. Her voice turned cold. You humiliated me, Sebastian, made me a laughingstock. So if you think I'm going to just let you play happy family while I pick up the pieces of my reputation, those are children, Sebastian interrupted. Innocent children who've done nothing to you. They exist. That's enough. Clarissa paused. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to come back, apologize publicly, reinstate the engagement, and send that woman and her brats back to whatever hole they crawled out of. Or I'm going to make sure CPS finds reasons to remove those children every single month until they turn 18. White-hot rage flooded through Sebastian. You're threatening my children. I'm protecting my future. There's a difference. No, Sebastian said quietly. There's not. And Clarissa, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. He hung up before she could respond and immediately called his investigator back. New priority. I want everything on Clarissa Hart. Every secret, every mistake, every skeleton in her perfect closet, and I want it by morning. Maya was watching him with wide eyes. What are you going to do? Whatever it takes to keep our family safe, Sebastian said. And for the first time, Maya didn't look afraid of his answer. The investigator's report arrived at 5 in the morning. Sebastian had been awake for hours, running on coffee and fury, and the thick file that appeared in his email inbox was exactly what he needed. Clarissa Hart wasn't as clean as her family pretended. There were DUIs that Daddy had made disappear, a pattern of harassment against former staff members who'd been paid off and silenced, evidence of academic fraud at her prestigious university, and most damningly, communication with a known blackmailer who specialized in destroying reputations. Sebastian forwarded everything to his lawyer with a simple message: prepare a cease and desist, and make it clear what happens if she refuses. By 7 a.m., he was at the townhouse. Maya opened the door already dressed, her face tight with stress. CPS is coming at 9, she said. The kids know something's wrong. Ivy won't stop asking questions, and Owen's been stimming since he woke up. Where are they now? Trying to eat breakfast. But Noah keeps watching the door like he's expecting something bad to walk through it. Sebastian's heart clenched. Can I see them? Maya stepped aside, and Sebastian walked into the kitchen to find 3 small faces looking up at him with varying degrees of worry. Even Ivy's usual brightness was dimmed. Hey guys, Sebastian said gently, pulling out a chair. I heard you're having a tough morning. The lady is coming back, Noah said quietly. The one who asks questions. Miss Patricia, yes, she's just checking in to make sure you're all happy and healthy. But we are happy, Ivy protested. We have our own rooms and lots of toys, and you come see us every day. Why does she need to check? Because it's her job to make sure all kids are safe and loved, Sebastian explained. And you guys are, so there's nothing to worry about. Owen's hands moved in rapid patterns. Sebastian had learned over the past week that this meant his son was processing anxiety. He knelt beside Owen's chair. Hey buddy, you okay? Owen didn't make eye contact, but his hands slowed slightly. Sebastian had also learned that sometimes just being present was enough. I brought something for you, Sebastian said, pulling a small weighted blanket from his bag. The therapist had suggested it might help during stressful moments. Want to try it? Owen took the blanket carefully, draped it over his shoulders, and immediately his stimming decreased. He looked at Sebastian briefly, just a flash of hazel eyes, and nodded. You're welcome, Sebastian said softly. Noah was still watching him with those gray eyes that saw too much. Are you worried? Sebastian could lie, could tell them everything was fine and hope they believed it. But Noah would see through it, and more importantly, these kids deserved the truth. A little, he admitted, but I'm also prepared. And I'm going to make sure nothing bad happens to you guys. That's a promise. You keep saying that, Noah observed. Promises. Because I mean them. Daddy? Ivy's voice was small. If the lady takes us away, will you come get us back? The question broke Sebastian's heart. She's not going to take you away, sweetheart. But if somehow, impossibly, anything like that happened, yes, I would move heaven and earth to bring you home. Ivy climbed into his lap, wrapping her small arms around his neck. I love you, Daddy. It was the first time any of them had said it. Sebastian's throat closed up completely. I love you too, Ivy. So much. Noah approached more cautiously, but he came. And Owen, still wrapped in his weighted blanket, shifted closer until his shoulder touched Sebastian's arm. Maya stood in the doorway watching, tears streaming down her face, and Sebastian knew that whatever happened with CPS today, this moment was real. This family was real, and he would protect it with everything he had. Patricia Reeves arrived at 9 o'clock sharp, accompanied by another caseworker Sebastian didn't recognize. His lawyer, Jennifer Morrison, was already there, looking professional and slightly intimidating. Ms. Bennett, Mr. Vale, Patricia said politely. This is my colleague, David Chen. We're here for the follow-up visit we discussed. Of course, Maya said, her voice steady despite the tension Sebastian could see in her shoulders. Please come in. The next hour was excruciating. Patricia and David walked through every room, asked detailed questions about the children's routines, observed how the kids interacted with both Maya and Sebastian. They requested documentation of school enrollment, medical care, therapy sessions. Jennifer provided everything smoothly, along with additional materials they hadn't requested. Character references, financial statements showing Sebastian's legitimate business ventures, security reports demonstrating the children's safety. Noah answered questions with his usual seriousness. Ivy was her charming self, showing the caseworkers her room and her favorite toys. Owen initially refused to engage, but when Patricia gently asked about his car collection, he carefully showed her how he organized them by color and model. They seem very settled, David observed, much more so than in the initial report. They're happy here, Maya said firmly. They have stability, security, everything they need. Patricia made notes. And Mr. Vale's involvement? This is a recent development? Yes, Sebastian said before Maya could answer. I only learned about the children 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've been establishing a relationship with them and ensuring they have everything they need. Including this residence? Including a safe home, yes. David exchanged a glance with Patricia. We've received reports suggesting that Mr. Vale's business dealings might present a danger to the children. Jennifer stepped in smoothly. Mr. Vale has severed all ties with his family's previous business interests. He's currently operating as an independent consultant with completely legitimate clients. I have documentation if you need it. We do, Patricia said. More papers were produced. Sebastian watched the caseworkers review everything, looking for holes, for problems, for any reason to substantiate whatever Clarissa had reported. They found nothing. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Patricia closed her folder. Mr. Vale, Mrs. Bennett, may we speak with you privately? Sebastian's stomach clenched, but he nodded. Maya asked Mrs. Chen, who'd come over to help with the kids, to take them to the playroom. Once the children were out of earshot, Patricia spoke. I'm going to be direct with you. We've received 3 anonymous reports in the past 2 weeks, all claiming various concerns about this placement, unsafe living conditions, criminal activity, inadequate supervision. And? Maya's voice shook slightly. And none of them have been substantiated. What I see here is 3 children who are thriving. They're healthy, happy, well cared for, and clearly loved by both parents. Patricia paused. However, the pattern of reports is concerning. Someone is targeting this family. We know who, Sebastian said quietly, and we're handling it. Legally, I hope, David said. Completely legally, Jennifer assured them. We've already filed cease and desist orders against the individual making these false reports. Patricia nodded. Good. Because while I'm closing this case as unfounded, I want to be clear. If these reports continue, we'll have to investigate each one. That's not good for anyone, especially the children. The reports will stop, Sebastian said with absolute certainty. See that they do. Patricia stood. Ms. Bennett, you're doing an excellent job with those kids. Mr. Vale, I'm glad to see you stepping up. Keep doing what you're doing. After the caseworkers left, Maya collapsed onto the couch. I can't keep doing this. Every time the doorbell rings, every time the phone buzzes, I think it's going to be them taking my babies away. Sebastian sat beside her, careful to maintain distance. It won't happen again. I'm making sure of it. How? You can't control Clarissa. Actually, I can. He pulled out his phone and showed her the summary of evidence his investigator had compiled. She's going to back off or this all becomes public. Her choice. Maya read through the file, her expression shifting from fear to shock to something almost like satisfaction. You'd really destroy her? To protect our children? Without hesitation. Our children, Maya repeated softly. You keep saying that. Because they are. Legally, biologically, emotionally, they're ours. Sebastian turned to face her. I know I haven't earned the right to call them that. I know I've only been here for 2 weeks. But Maya, they're mine in every way that matters. I know. She looked at him, really looked at him, and Sebastian saw something shift in her expression. I see it when you're with them. The way Noah seeks you out when he's worried, the way Ivy lights up when you walk in, the way Owen trusts you with his routines and his safe spaces. They're yours. And you? The question came out before Sebastian could stop it. Are you mine? Maya's breath caught. Sebastian, I'm not asking for an answer. I'm just... He stopped. trying to find the right words. I love you, Maya. I told you that before, and I meant it, but I also know that love isn't enough. I destroyed your trust, and I need to rebuild it. I'm just asking if that's even possible. If somewhere down the road you could see yourself forgiving me enough to what? Love you back? Maya's voice was soft. Sebastian, I never stopped loving you. That's the problem. Sebastian's heart stopped. What? 4 years ago when you walked away, I was devastated. But I wasn't just hurt. I was furious. Because even after everything you said, even after you destroyed me, I still loved you. She wiped at her eyes. And then I found out I was pregnant, and I had to somehow reconcile loving a man who'd abandoned me with raising children who looked just like him. Every time Noah looked at me with your eyes, every time Ivy smiled with your smile, every time Owen showed the same quiet determination you have, I saw you, and I hated that I still loved you. Maya, let me finish. She took a shaky breath. These past 2 weeks, watching you with the kids, seeing how hard you're trying, seeing you walk away from everything to choose them, it's breaking down every wall I built, and that terrifies me. Because what if you leave again? What if this gets too hard and you decide we're not worth it? That won't happen. You can't know that. Yes, I can. Sebastian moved closer, close enough to take her hand if she'd let him. Because I know what it feels like to live without you. I know what it cost me to walk away. And Maya, I would rather die than feel that way again. She was crying openly now. You hurt me so badly. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. His own voice broke. I wish I could go back and make different choices. I wish I'd trusted you enough to tell you the truth. I wish I'd been there when you found out about the pregnancy, when you gave birth, when you struggled to keep them fed and safe. I wish I'd been the man you needed me to be. But you weren't. No. But I'm here now. And I'm not the same person I was 4 years ago. I'm not Victor's puppet anymore. I'm not afraid of choosing love over power. He paused. I'm a man who loves you and our children more than anything in this world. And if you'll give me a chance, I'll spend the rest of my life proving it. Maya looked at their hands. She'd let him take hers at some point without him noticing. I don't know if I can do this. Then don't. Not yet. Sebastian squeezed her hand gently. But don't shut me out completely. Let me keep showing up. Let me keep being here for the kids, for you. And maybe someday you'll be able to trust me again. She nodded slowly. Okay. But Sebastian, I need time. I need to see that this is real, that you're not going to disappear when things get complicated. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. They sat together in silence, hands linked, years of hurt beginning to heal in inches. The sound of small feet running broke the moment. Ivy burst into the room, followed by her brothers. Is the meeting over? Can we play now? Ivy's energy was back in full force. Meeting's over, Maya confirmed, wiping her eyes. What do you want to play? Can Daddy stay? Ivy looked at Sebastian hopefully. Please? Sebastian looked at Maya, who nodded. I can stay. The afternoon dissolved into the kind of domestic chaos Sebastian was learning to love. They built elaborate block towers that Owen organized and Ivy gleefully knocked down. They read stories with Noah providing detailed commentary on plot holes. They had an impromptu dance party in the living room that left everyone breathless and laughing. And through it all, Sebastian felt the pieces of his life finally clicking into place. This was what mattered. Not empires or power or family legacy, just this. 3 children and a woman who was slowly, carefully learning to trust him again. That evening, after the kids were in bed, Sebastian's phone rang. It was Jennifer. Clarissa's lawyer just called, she said. She's agreeing to all our terms. No more CPS reports, no more harassment, complete radio silence. In exchange, we don't release any of the information we found. Sebastian felt tension he hadn't realized he was carrying release from his shoulders. She signed? Everything. It's over, Sebastian. Your family is safe. After he hung up, he found Maya in the kitchen making tea. That was my lawyer. Clarissa backed down, signed a legally binding agreement to leave us alone. Maya turned to him, hope blooming across her face. Really? Really. It's over. She sagged against the counter. Oh, thank God. I was so scared that this would never end, that we'd be looking over our shoulders forever. We're safe now. The Kozlovs have agreed to leave us alone. Clarissa is legally bound to stop. And I've made it very clear to anyone else who might be interested that this family is completely off limits. Sebastian moved closer. You can breathe, Maya. We're safe. She launched herself at him without warning, wrapping her arms around his neck. Sebastian caught her automatically, holding her close, breathing in the scent of her hair and feeling her heart beating against his chest. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for keeping us safe. Always, he promised. For as long as I'm breathing, I'll keep you safe. They stood there for a long moment, holding each other, before Maya pulled back slightly. Her eyes were wet, but she was smiling. I think, she started, then stopped. I think maybe I'm ready. Ready for what? To try. To see if we can be something again. Not right away, but eventually. She looked up at him. You've been showing up every day for 2 weeks. You've protected us, fought for us, chosen us over everything else. Maybe it's time I stopped waiting for you to leave and started believing you'll stay. Sebastian's heart felt too big for his chest. Are you sure? No, Maya admitted. I'm terrified. But I'm tired of being afraid, and I'm tired of loving you from a distance. So maybe we could try? Slowly? As slow as you need, Sebastian promised. He cupped her face gently. Maya Bennett, I am going to court you like we're starting fresh. I'm going to take you on dates and bring you flowers and earn your trust one day at a time. And when you're ready, if you're ready, I'm going to ask you to marry me. For real this time. Not an arranged engagement or a business transaction. Just me asking you to spend your life with someone who loves you more than he loves breathing. That's a pretty big promise. I'm a pretty determined man. He smiled. Besides, I have 3 very persuasive assistants who keep asking when Mama and Daddy are going to get married like their friends' parents. Maya laughed through her tears. They've been asking you that? Every single day. Ivy has strong opinions about what kind of dress you should wear. Of course she does. They stood together in the kitchen, foreheads touching, breathing the same air, and Sebastian felt hope blooming for the first time in 4 years. Over the next 6 months, Sebastian kept his promise. He showed up every single day, not as an obligation, but as a joy. He learned the rhythms of the household, Owen's therapy schedule, Noah's preference for bedtime stories about space, Ivy's endless energy that required multiple outlets. He officially established paternity and worked out a custody arrangement with Maya that essentially amounted to him being as present as she'd allow, which turned out to be constantly. He started a legitimate consulting business, using his strategic mind and connections for legal purposes. It wasn't as lucrative as the Vale Empire, but it was honest work that let him sleep at night. He had dinner with the family every evening, read bedtime stories, attended therapy sessions, showed up for school events, learned to braid hair when Ivy demanded it, mastered the art of parallel play with Owen, had increasingly complex philosophical discussions with Noah, and slowly, carefully, he courted Maya. First dates were coffee while the kids were at school, then dinners after they were asleep. Long walks through Brooklyn, too. Conversations that stretched for hours about everything and nothing, rebuilding the connection they'd once had, but stronger this time, rooted in truth instead of secrets. 3 months in, Sebastian kissed her for the first time since they'd reunited. They were in the kitchen after a particularly chaotic family dinner, and Maya was laughing at something Ivy had said, and Sebastian couldn't help himself. He cupped her face and kissed her softly. She kissed him back. 5 months in, Maya admitted she'd forgiven him. They were sitting on the couch watching the kids play, and she just said it quietly. I forgive you for leaving, for the wasted years. I forgive you. Sebastian had cried. At 6 months, on a Sunday afternoon in the Brooklyn townhouse garden, Sebastian proposed. Not with a massive ring or an elaborate setup, but simply. The kids were playing nearby, and Maya was watching them with that soft smile she got when they were being particularly sweet, and Sebastian knelt down beside her chair. Maya Bennett, he said quietly. She turned, saw him kneeling, and her hands flew to her mouth. I know we've talked about this. I know you said someday, but I can't wait anymore. Sebastian pulled out a simple gold band with a single diamond, elegant and understated, just like her. I love you. I love our children. I love the life we're building together, and I want to make it official. Will you marry me? Maya was crying, but she was also smiling. Yes. Yes. Absolutely yes. The kids erupted in cheers. They'd been in on the plan, and Ivy had been nearly bursting with the secret for days. They got married 3 months later in a small ceremony in the townhouse garden. Just family and close friends, no press, no spectacle, no society columns. Ivy was the flower girl and took her job very seriously. Noah and Owen were ring bearers walking down the aisle, together with Owen's hand in Noah's. Victor Vale didn't attend. Sebastian had sent an invitation more out of courtesy than expectation, and it had been returned unopened. But Richard Hart attended, surprisingly. He found Sebastian before the ceremony started. I owe you an apology, Richard said stiffly. I was wrong about a lot of things, about what mattered, about what made a good man. He paused. My daughter is bitter and angry, but I see what you've built here. It's real, and it's good. Thank you, Sebastian said, surprised by the gesture. Take care of them, Richard said, looking at Maya in her simple white dress, surrounded by 3 excited children. They're the real empire. I know. The ceremony was short and sweet. Maya cried. Sebastian cried. Even Noah cried a little, though he tried to hide it. When they were pronounced married, Ivy shouted, "Finally!" loud enough that everyone laughed. That night, after the guests left and the kids were finally, blessedly asleep, Sebastian and Maya stood in the garden where they'd gotten married just hours before. Mrs. Vale, Sebastian said, testing out the name. Actually, I'm keeping Bennett, Maya said with a smile. The kids have it, and I like having the same name as them. But you can be Mr. Bennett if you want. I'd be honored to be Mr. Bennett. She laughed and kissed him. I can't believe we're here. 6 months ago, I was terrified of you. Now I'm married to you. Terrified of me? Of what you represented. Of getting hurt again. Of letting the kids get attached and having you disappear. She wrapped her arms around his waist. But you didn't disappear. You stayed. Even when it was hard, even when I pushed you away, you stayed. I told you I would. I know, but it's different experiencing it. Knowing that when things get complicated, you don't run. You just stay and fight and love us through it. Sebastian pulled her closer. That's what family does. Is this what you imagined? Maya asked. When you thought about your future? A townhouse in Brooklyn with 3 kids and a wife who owns a food truck? Sebastian thought about the penthouse in Manhattan he'd given up, the empire he'd walked away from, the life of power and influence he'd traded for bedtime stories and therapy sessions and chaotic family dinners. No, he said honestly, this is better than anything I ever imagined. 1 year later, Sebastian sat in the audience of Owen's school performance. His son was participating in a play about community helpers, and while Owen had refused a speaking part, he'd agreed to be on stage if he could be a crossing guard who just held up a stop sign. It was a small victory, but Sebastian had learned that with Owen, small victories were everything. Noah sat beside him, whispering commentary about the plot. Ivy was on Maya's other side, waving enthusiastically every time she saw Owen, even though he was just standing there. When the performance ended, Owen came running, actually running, which he rarely did, straight to Sebastian. I did it, he said, his voice quiet but proud. You did, Sebastian confirmed, kneeling down to his level. You were amazing, buddy. Owen smiled, a real, full smile that lit up his entire face, and held up his hand for a high five. Sebastian obliged, his heart bursting. Can we get ice cream? Ivy asked. To celebrate? Absolutely, Maya agreed. They walked to the ice cream shop as a family, Sebastian and Maya hand in hand, the kids running ahead but never too far. Noah kept checking back to make sure they were following. Ivy narrated everything they passed. Owen hummed his contentment. Inside the shop, while the kids debated flavors, an older woman approached Sebastian. He tensed instinctively, still not entirely comfortable with strangers approaching, even after a year of quiet family life. I'm sorry to interrupt, the woman said, but I just wanted to say you have a beautiful family. Sebastian looked at Maya, who was helping Owen decide between chocolate and vanilla. At Noah, who was explaining the mathematical probability of which flavor combination was optimal. At Ivy, who was charming the teenager behind the counter. Thank you, he said, and meant it with his entire soul. I really do. That night, after ice cream and dinner and baths and bedtime stories, Sebastian found Maya in their bedroom. She was looking at photos from Owen's performance on her phone, smiling. What are you thinking about? He asked, climbing into bed beside her. How different life is now. How a year ago I was terrified every single day, and now... She gestured around the room, at the house they'd made into a home, at the life they'd built. Now I'm happy. Really, genuinely happy. Me too. She set down her phone and turned to face him. Do you ever regret it? Walking away from everything? Sebastian thought about his grandfather, who he hadn't spoken to in over a year, about the empire he'd given up, about the life of power and influence he could have had. Then he thought about this morning, when Ivy had climbed into bed with them at 6 a.m. to announce that she'd lost her first tooth. About yesterday, when Noah had asked him to help with a school project about families. About last week, when Owen had let Sebastian hug him for a full 30 seconds without pulling away. Not even for a second, he said truthfully. Maya kissed him softly. Good, because you're stuck with us now. Best decision I ever made. Outside their window, Brooklyn hummed with evening life. Somewhere across the river, the Manhattan skyline glittered with the promise of power and wealth and everything Sebastian had walked away from. But inside this brownstone, in this bed, with this woman beside him and 3 children sleeping safely down the hall, Sebastian Vale had everything he'd ever actually needed. He had a family who loved him not for his name or his money or his connections, but for who he was when he showed up every day. For the father who learned to braid hair and memorize therapy techniques and play endless games of hide and seek in a house too small to really hide. For the man who chose them over everything else and never once looked back. 2 years after that, Victor Vale died. The funeral was elaborate, attended by hundreds of people who'd feared or courted or depended on him. Sebastian attended with Maya by his side, wearing a simple black suit, and felt nothing but a distant sadness for what might have been if Victor had been a different kind of man. The will reading was contentious. Victor had left the empire to a cousin, pointedly excluding Sebastian entirely. But there was one bequest that surprised everyone. A letter, sealed and addressed to Sebastian. He opened it in the car with Maya reading over his shoulder. Sebastian, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Good. I don't want to see the disappointment in your face when you realize I never understood what you were trying to tell me. I built an empire. You built a family. I thought empires lasted forever and families were weaknesses to be managed. I was wrong. I watched you from a distance this past year, saw the photos in the paper of you at your son's school play, read about your legitimate business ventures, heard through contacts that you were happy. I still don't understand how you could walk away from everything I built. But I'm beginning to understand that maybe what I built wasn't worth keeping. Take care of those children. They're your legacy now. Make it better than mine. V. Sebastian stared at the letter for a long time. It wasn't an apology. Victor Vale didn't apologize, but it was something, an acknowledgement, a benediction of sorts. Are you okay? Maya asked softly. Yeah, Sebastian said, folding the letter carefully. I think I am. He never shared the letter publicly. It went into a box in the back of the closet, a final message from a man who'd shaped Sebastian's life in ways both destructive and, inadvertently, constructive. Because without Victor's cruelty, Sebastian might never have learned what really mattered. 5 years after the wedding, Sebastian and Maya sat in the audience of Owen's middle school graduation. Their son walked across the stage to receive his diploma, and while he didn't make eye contact with the audience, he was smiling. Smiling because he had accomplished something hard. Smiling because he was proud of himself. Noah was giving the class speech, something thoughtful about journeys and destinations that had the entire auditorium quiet and attentive. Ivy was fidgeting beside Sebastian, already planning her own future graduation speech, even though she had years to go. After the ceremony, they went to dinner at a small restaurant in Brooklyn, the one Maya had opened 2 years ago, funded partially by Sebastian's consulting business and partially by a small business loan she'd insisted on taking out herself. It was called the Three Kings, named after their children, and it was always busy with neighborhood families who appreciated good food and reasonable prices. Tonight, though, the restaurant was closed for a private party, just family and close friends celebrating Owen's graduation. Eli was there with his wife, Mrs. Chen, who'd become like a grandmother to the kids. Jenny, Owen's longtime therapist, who'd watched him grow from a nonverbal 4-year-old into a thriving preteen. A few of Maya's friends from the old neighborhood who'd supported her through the hard years. And in the corner, surprisingly, Richard Hart, who'd stayed in touch over the years and had become an unlikely ally and friend. Sebastian watched his family, and it was his family now, all of them, celebrating together, and felt that bone-deep contentment he'd learned to recognize as happiness. "Daddy?" Ivy appeared at his elbow. She was 10 now, all long legs and boundless energy. "Noah wants to know if he can make a toast." "Of course he can." Noah stood, tapping his glass for attention. At 12, he was already showing signs of the man he'd become. Serious, thoughtful, with those gray veil eyes that saw everything. "I want to say something," Noah announced. "About family." The room quieted. "When I was really little, it was just me and Ivy and Owen and Mama. And that was enough because Mama loved us so much that we didn't know we were missing anything." Noah looked at Maya, who was already tearing up. "But then our dad came back. And at first I didn't trust him. I thought he'd leave again. I thought maybe we were just, I don't know, a project or something." Sebastian's throat tightened. "But he didn't leave. He stayed. He learned what foods Owen wouldn't eat and how to braid Ivy's hair, and he listened to all my questions even when they were annoying." Noah smiled. "He became our dad. Not just the guy whose DNA we share, but our actual dad who showed up every single day. Noah!" Sebastian's voice cracked. "Wait, I'm not done." Noah grinned. "What I'm trying to say is, family isn't just who you're born to. It's who stays. It's who fights for you and loves you and shows up even when it's hard. And Dad?" He looked directly at Sebastian. "You showed up, and you stayed, so thank you." The room erupted in applause. Sebastian stood and pulled Noah into a hug, not caring that his 12-year-old son might find it embarrassing. "Thank you," he whispered, "for giving me a chance to be your dad." "Thanks for taking it," Noah whispered back. Later that night, after the party, after the kids were finally asleep in their respective rooms, Sebastian and Maya stood on the back deck of the townhouse looking out at the Brooklyn night. "Can you believe it's been 5 years?" Maya asked, leaning into his side. "Sometimes it feels like yesterday. Sometimes it feels like forever. Do you ever wonder what life would be like if you hadn't seen us in the park that day?" Sebastian thought about it. "Sometimes. But then I remember that you would have figured it out eventually. You're too strong to let anything keep you down for long. You would have pulled yourself and the kids up without me." "Maybe, but it would have been harder and lonelier," Sebastian added, "for both of us." Maya turned to face him. "I'm glad you came back. I'm glad you fought for us. I'm glad—" She paused, smiling. "I'm glad you chose us." "Every single day," Sebastian promised. "For the rest of my life, I choose you. I choose them. I choose this." He kissed her under the Brooklyn stars, in the garden of the home they'd built together, with 3 children sleeping safely inside, and knew that he'd finally found what he'd been searching for his entire life. Not power, not legacy, not the Veil Empire or anything Victor had tried to make him value. Just love. Just family. Just the simple, profound joy of being exactly where he belonged. And it was more than enough. It was everything.